Chapter 259. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang sat in the car, staring at each other. Just now, Tang Zheng had eaten at the Ye family, so he and Yi Dingdang went to Yenqing University to report. Yi Dingdang wanted to keep a low profile, so she did not drive and instead called a taxi. However, Yi Dingdang was still angry that her cultivation did not surpass Tang Zheng's. "What did you say to my parents just now?" Yi Dingdang angrily asked. Tang Zheng was at a loss and said, "I didn't say anything." "Humph, I don't believe you. Let me tell you, if you want me to fulfill my promise, there is no way. You already have a girlfriend, do you want me to be the third party? Moreover, our bet did not have a time limit, so even if you are stronger than me now, I don't have to fulfill the bet." Yi Dingdang slyly said. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes. This girl was really smart, she actually took advantage of this loophole. However, he did not intend to let the other party fulfill the bet, so he indifferently shrugged his shoulders. Looking at his appearance, Yi Dingdang thought that he was definitely up to no good, but she could not help but think of her mother's previous warning: if she really liked Tang Zheng, then she had to work hard to win him over. Tang Zheng's potential was definitely limitless, this was also the old man's intention. Yi Dingdang was shocked. Feng Xinyang was interested in Pound, even a blind person could see the matter with Tang Zheng, but how did the old man change his mind and actually fall for Tang Zheng? What is so good about Tang Zheng? He is such a playboy. He already has a girlfriend, do you want me to be the third party? While her thoughts were running wild, the taxi arrived at Yenqing University. Yenqing University had a long history and rich educational resources. It was the top university in the country, and its ancient school gate showed its deep history. There were already many private cars parked near the school gate. There were local and foreign license plates everywhere, and they were basically all luxury cars. If they were not luxury cars, they would be embarrassed to drive here. Many people were carrying large and small bags. Their faces were slightly childish, but they were filled with infinite expectation as they looked at this awe-inspiring school, looking forward to their university days. Tang Zheng was carrying a backpack, but Yi Dingdang was not so simple. She had 2 huge suitcases and a big backpack. Tang Zheng laughed at her and wondered if she had moved her home here. Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes at him. She dragged a suitcase in each hand and walked side by side with Tang Zheng. What attracted students the most in a university? Of course, it was handsome men and beautiful women. Especially beautiful women, not only could they attract the attention of handsome men, but they could also attract beautiful women. Of course, they had to reach a certain level of beauty. Mediocre people could only be passers-by. Tang Zheng was now a passerby. Although his height had reached 1.8 meters and his body was well proportioned, he could only be considered a model. However, his appearance could only be considered above average. He could not be considered a god that could shock the world. Compared to Yi Dingdang, he paled in comparison. Not only was Yi Dingdang tall, her height of more than 1.7 meters was enough to look down on most girls. Moreover, she was wearing denim shorts, and her slender and straight beautiful legs were in full view. There was not a single scar on her legs, which deeply attracted people's attention. She was wearing a simple t-shirt on her upper body, and her black hair was draped over her shoulders, showing off her charm. She was pulling a heavy suitcase, which was a sharp contrast to Tang Zheng's empty hands. Moreover, the two of them got off from the same car. Everyone knew that they were together, but Tang Zheng's actions were simply outrageous. A boy was empty-handed, and a girl was dragging 2 big suitcases. Was there any gentlemanly behavior left? It was not only the boys, but even the girls could not stand it. Many people whispered and pointed, despising Tang Zheng's bad behavior to the extreme. However, Tang Zheng did not notice this at all. In his impression, Yi Dingdang was a martial artist. This kind of luggage was a piece of cake. Moreover, Yi Dingdang was a self-respecting and self-reliant person. Why would she need his help? Therefore, he felt at ease. Finally, there were people who could not stand it anymore. Such a great beauty dragging so much luggage was simply a stain on beauty. Thus, two quick-witted seniors immediately rushed up and said enthusiastically, "Student, which school are you from? Come, we'll help you with your luggage." "No need." Yi Dingdang refused. "It's okay. We're your seniors." It's normal for seniors to take care of juniors, unlike some people who don't even have any self-awareness as a man. As he spoke, he glanced at Tang Zheng. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. Tang Zheng looked at the two of them in surprise. What did this have to do with him? Why did it involve him? Seeing Tang Zheng's deflated expression, Yi Dingdang was secretly happy. Fortunately, she handed the luggage to the two seniors. The seniors looked as if they had received a treasure. They smiled happily and glanced at Tang Zheng proudly. It was as if they were saying, "Kid, you didn't cherish such a good opportunity. Today, your seniors will teach you a lesson." Yi Dingdang clapped her hands and teased, "Look at them. They're so much better than you. They're so helpful." When the seniors heard this, their faces bloomed with smiles and said, "Of course. Boys should take care of girls." Yi Dingdang patted Tang Zheng on the shoulder and said, "Did you hear that? Learn a little." Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and said, "It's not like you don't have hands and feet. Besides, this little bit of luggage is nothing." The seniors looked at him as if he was looking at an alien. "Junior, aren't you too awesome? You actually said it with such vigor. Are you planning to be alone for the rest of your life? You won't be able to pick up girls like this." Yi Dingdang was speechless. She gritted her teeth and said, "You're ruthless. Who asked you to bring so many things? It's as if you can't wait to move your home to school. Anyway, your home isn't far. Bring less things. In the future, you can go back to get them," Tang Zheng said. Yi Dingdang curled her lips and did not argue with him. She said, "I'll go to your school to take a look first. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. I'm curious why you chose the archaeology department." "I like it." Tang Zheng's answer was simple and clear. There are very few girls in the archaeology department. This junior actually chose the archaeology department. It seems like he has really studied too much. He can only play around in his 4 years in university." A few seniors looked at each other and cursed silently. Tang Zheng did not care about the thoughts of the few of them, and directly walked towards the new student reception area of the archaeology department. Yi Dingdang accompanied by his side, and the two seniors tried to curry favor with him, but Yi Dingdang ignored them. Most of the time, they were looking for Tang Zheng to talk to, but Tang Zheng ignored them, which made the seniors feel defeated. "What's so good about this brat? He doesn't understand the situation. Our senior's concern is meticulous, and he actually ignores us." Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang walked in front, while the seniors dragged their luggage behind them. They looked like their little brothers, causing the two of them to feel extremely aggrieved. They originally thought that they could get close to such a beautiful junior sister, but they were only treated as coolies. The archaeology department was a small department, and there were very few people reporting to it. There were 3 boys sitting at the reporting area, wearing thick glasses and dressed very simply. At this moment, the few of them were whispering excitedly. "I heard that a beautiful junior sister came to our department." "That's right, she's too beautiful." In the past, people said that even the mosquitoes in the archaeology department were male. This time, a beautiful junior sister has finally come, and she's even at the level of a school beauty. Now, our department can turn things around. Right, I was the one who sent her to the dormitory. Wow, that feeling was really great. Then you didn't ask for a phone number or WeChat? The boy scratched his head and said shyly, "I'm sorry. TSK, what a waste of opportunity." Suddenly, the 3 of them saw 2 pairs of legs in front of them. One of them was a pair of smooth long legs that were especially attractive. The 3 of them swallowed their saliva and looked at each other. Could it be that the archaeology department was really going to turn things around? Another beautiful junior sister. The three of them raised their heads and happened to see the youthful and beautiful Yi Dingdang. Their hearts couldn't help but beat faster. One of them was more quick-witted and quickly said, "Junior sister, are you from our archaeology department?" Yi Dingdang remained calm and smiled. In that instant, the three of them almost had a nosebleed. They thought to themselves that they couldn't stand it. This was even more charming than the junior sister from before. Looking at the three of them, Tang Zheng could not help but smile bitterly. Did he report the wrong department? The reactions of these three seniors were too exaggerated. In fact, Tang Zheng was a well-fed man who did not know the hunger of the hungry. The archaeology department was a small department to begin with, and there were very few girls who were willing to apply for the archaeology department. If there were 1 or 2 girls every year, it would be a blessing from the heavens. A beauty like Yi Dingdang had almost exceeded the limits of their imagination. With such a beauty in the archaeology department, even if they could not get close to her, they would still feel honored just thinking about it. Cough cough. Tang Zheng coughed dryly and said, "I'm the one who reported, not her." The three of them were pulled back from their souls. They were greatly disappointed and looked at Tang Zheng with teary faces. "Why is it you, not her?" Tang Zheng was so angry at the three of them that he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Then why don't you ask her if she wants to change departments?" The three of them were dejected. "Changing departments, stop joking." Unexpectedly, Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes and said, "It's not impossible to change departments, but you have to promise me one condition." The three of them immediately raised their heads, overjoyed at the unexpected good news. The two seniors behind them were shocked. What kind of magic did this junior brother have, to actually be able to make such a stunning junior sister willingly transfer to him with just one sentence? Tang Zheng ignored the senior's fervent gaze and shook his head. "I won't fall for your trick." "Is your condition that easy to achieve?" Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said, "Stingy brat, forget it, I won't accompany you anymore. I have to report as well. After everything is done, remember to call my mother to tell her that you're safe. Otherwise, she'll call me again to ask me questions." "Got it," Tang Zheng said casually. When the others heard this, they were about to kneel down. No wonder this junior brother was so fierce and his attitude was so casual. It turned out that he had even taken care of his husband and mother. They were almost in despair as they looked at Tang Zheng indignantly. "Junior brother, you're so fierce, does your family know? Are you going to give us a way out?" Chapter 260. Under the guidance of a senior, Tang Zheng went through the admission procedures, paid the tuition fees, and was brought to the dormitory. Free novel portal along the way, the senior tried his best to persuade Tang Zheng to agree to Yi Dingdang's conditions and let her transfer to another department, increasing the quality of the girls in the archaeology department. Tang Zheng laughed and did not reply. After arriving at the dormitory, the senior sighed and left resentfully. There were a total of 4 members in the dormitory, and the other 3 had already arrived. They were the tall Sinosaurus, the elegant Zhou Yan, and the simple-dressed Wang Shiji. Amongst them, only Zhou Yan was sent here by his parents. His parents looked like officials, serious in speech and manner, but they were not too domineering and arrogant. Wang Shiji's family was obviously poor. His luggage was 2 nylon bags, and other than his clothes, there was also a half-old quilt. It was obvious that he had brought it from home, and he was also shy and did not want to speak much. Zhou Yan was the most cheerful, livening up the atmosphere, while Dou Long would occasionally interject a few words, which was just right. In short, those who were able to enter this top academy were not idiots, and did not have the attitude of looking down on others. Who knew what other people would do in the future? This school was filled with geniuses. Since their family conditions were poor in the past, who could guarantee that they would be poor in the future? Therefore, it was safest to manage this friendship between classmates well. Tang Zheng also quickly integrated into this small group. Zhou Yan's parents treated everyone in the dormitory to a meal. The standard was neither high nor low, it was just right. Tang Zheng's university life began just like that. With a little curiosity, a little novelty, there weren't many waves. After resting for a day, military uniforms were distributed and military training began. On the huge field, there were several square formations, a sea of camouflage uniforms. Many people quietly looked around, searching for the beautiful figures in the sea of camouflage. Tang Zheng looked at the instructors of this military training with interest. The instructors of Yenqing University's military training were not from the academy, but the elites of the army. It was said that many of them were warriors who had seen blood before. Every year, there would be outstanding people who would be recruited by the army. After graduation, they would work in the army, so many people would want to perform well in the military training. Even if they did not join the army in the future, showing their faces in front of the school's leaders and having a good impression of them would be precious. Tang Zheng did not have these messy thoughts, he was purely curious. Looking at the few officers on the stage, his pupils could not help but shrink. As if he had sensed something, one of the officers suddenly turned his head and looked in Tang Zheng's direction. Tang Zheng immediately lowered his head, not letting the other party notice anything strange. However, the corners of his mouth slightly. Interesting, there were actually a few martial artists among the instructors, and that 30-something-year-old instructor was actually a second-grade post-celestial stage martial artist. He was indeed an elite of the army. Tang Zheng could not help but look forward to the military training. Hey, OL3, look at that beauty on the left. She's really beautiful. She's in the same square formation as us. I wonder which department she's from. Sinosaurus lightly touched Tang Zheng's shoulder and said softly. There was only one class in the archaeology department, so they were in a square formation with the other faculties. Tang Zheng's dormitory was arranged according to age. Wang Shiji was the eldest, Sinosaurus was the second, Tang Zheng was the third, and Zhou Yan was the youngest. However, the few of them were mentally young. It was obvious that the eldest, Wang Shiji, was relatively small and timid. If you see a beautiful person, hurry up and make your move. Otherwise, if others beat you to it, you'll suffer a huge loss. Tang Zheng encouraged without batting an eyelid. Although Sinosaurus was tall and strong, there were a lot of pimples on his face. When he laughed, the pimples were especially conspicuous. I heard that a great beauty came to our archaeology department this time. Do you think it's her? Oh, is she really that beautiful? Tang Zheng's curiosity was piqued, and he couldn't help but remember the whispers of the seniors when they were reporting. They were also praising this so-called beauty from their department, and he wanted to see just what kind of beauty she was. You'll know once you take a look. I'm not lying to you. Sinosaurus said, I wonder what this beauty's name is and what she likes. I'll go ask around later. Tang Zheng turned his head slightly. There were a few girls on the left, but among the 10,000 flowers, there was only one flower that was the most dazzling. Tang Zheng immediately recognized it, but he was stunned. This person was actually Ding Xiaowan. The two of them had met once on the train, and Tang Zheng had determined that Ding Xiaowan was Gao Daji's brainless fan, so he did not have a good impression of her. He did not expect to meet her again so soon, and it was even a square formation. Hee, Lao San, isn't she beautiful? You're stunned. Sinosaurus laughed mischievously. Tang Zheng retracted his gaze and said indifferently, not bad, I encourage you to chase after her. Maybe she likes you. This little girl was a brainless fan of Takashi, so of course she couldn't let Takashi off so easily. It was a good choice to encourage Sinosaurus to launch an attack. Sinosaurus's confidence was high. I also think that she will like me. Look at how powerful I am, I can definitely give people a sense of security. Don't women like to have a sense of security? Yes, wise words. Do your best. Damn, Lao San, look at the stage. Why are there so many beauties this year? She's also a complete beauty, and she's even more charming. She's valiant and heroic, and she's full of heroic spirit. She's not even inferior to those instructors. Suddenly, Sinosaurus exclaimed in a low voice, stretching out his long neck to look around. The colonel and military leaders on the stage had finished speaking, and now it was time for the student representative to speak. This student representative was actually Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang's heroic spirit was in harmony with the atmosphere of the military training. She had a straight face as she read out her speech. Her voice was sonorous and powerful, just like a rose in the army. Wow, such a beauty is tall, with long legs, big breasts, and a thin waist. She has a perfect body, and she's also so stylish. This is the best. Sinosaurus smacked his lips as he praised. The other boys also looked at Yi Dingdang with eager eyes, captivated by her beauty. Yi Dingdang's expression was calm as she read the script while her gaze swept across the square, looking for Tang Zheng's figure. Yi Dingdang not only had a good temperament and image, but more importantly, she had an illustrious background. So when the school chose the representative to speak, she was chosen. Originally, she did not want to show her face, but later, she thought that her martial arts were not better than Tang Zheng's, so she could surpass him in other aspects. It could be considered another kind of victory. She knew that Tang Zheng was definitely looking at her, so she could not help but ponder, humph, Tang Zheng, this lady will not admit defeat. The more I fight, the braver I become. Just you wait and see. Suddenly, her gaze swept across Tang Zheng's square. Although everyone was wearing the same uniform, she still recognized him at a glance. She was all too familiar with his temperament. Their eyes met, and a hint of provocation flashed in her eyes. The corner of her mouth hooked up into a faint smile. How could Tang Zheng not understand her thoughts? He could not help but smile bitterly. Yi Dingdang's competitive nature had not changed at all. Instead, she had been beaten down by him too many times, and had become more and more intense. Wow, OL3, look at her smiling at me. Has she fallen for me? Sinosaurus's heartbeat quickened as he said excitedly. Tang Zheng pretended to be serious and said, it is possible. You can go and confess later. It's too sudden, that's not good. Maybe he likes to make sudden attacks. Otherwise, if someone else gets there first, you won't have a chance. Tang Zheng urged. Let's wait and see. Sinosaurus felt a little guilty. After all, Yi Dingdang's powerful aura was worlds apart from Ding Xiaowan's. Normal people would not have the courage to do so. After the speech, the military training began. The instructor who had been standing in front of the square formation like a javelin finally opened his mouth. His gaze was like lightning as he directly stared at Tang Zheng and Sinosaurus. He pointed at the two of them and said, you guys like to talk a lot, right? Let me tell you, in my team, without my orders, you are not allowed to say a single word. Even if you fart, you have to report it. The instructor's barbaric style shocked everyone. Sinosaurus, however, was not afraid. He rolled his eyes and said loudly, reporting to the instructor, I want to fart. Ha! The crowd couldn't help but laugh out loud. The instructor's face instantly darkened to the extreme. He gritted his teeth and said, you want to fart, right? Then I'll approve of you. If you don't let it out, then stand and do 200 push-ups. Yes, sir. Sinosaurus said seriously. Puff. A loud fart shook the heavens and the earth. Everyone subconsciously scattered to the side. Damn, this person was really farting, it was 2F** King Smelly. Tang Zheng leaned against Sinosaurus and immediately held his breath to prevent himself from being attacked by the poison gas bomb. He could not help but sigh in his heart, this brother was truly a talent. He had thought that Sinosaurus was just playing around, he never thought that he would really be able to fart. Suddenly, Tang Zheng and Sinosaurus were the only ones left in the square formation. They stood there motionlessly, undoubtedly becoming the center of attention. The instructor's face almost turned green. After teaching so many batches of students, he had encountered many weirdos, but there was only one weirdo like this, it made him lose face. Sinosaurus looked relaxed as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the instructor with a smirk. You too, stand at the front. The rest of you, stand in line. The instructor noticed that everyone was looking at him, especially the military leaders, who were frowning. This made him feel even more pressure and anger. This group of geniuses needed to be fiercely drilled to show their strength. Since someone provoked them, then they would kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Once these two troublemakers were suppressed, the others would naturally not dare to cause trouble. Almost every year, there would be troublemakers in the military training. The instructor was already used to it and had plenty of ways to deal with them. However, this was the first time he had seen Sinosaurus, this weirdo who was farting and causing trouble. He was somewhat caught off guard. Tang Zheng's face was bitter. What did this have to do with him? Why did it involve him? Reporting to the instructor, didn't you say that I wouldn't be punished if I farted? Sinosaurus was unhappy, I was following your orders. The instructor rolled his eyes and said, I'm not talking about this. Just now when the leader was speaking, the two of you were whispering. Don't think that I don't know, so this is the punishment for the two of you disobeying the order just now. Lie down, do 200 standard push-ups, then run 3,000 meters. For students who were locked up in a greenhouse all year round, this amount of exercise was almost impossible to complete. Moreover, to be able to be admitted to such a top university, they were almost completely devoted to their studies during high school and did not have much time to exercise. Therefore, the instructor was confident that he could use this matter to warn the other party and kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Chapter 261. When the others heard this punishment, their faces all changed. This set of punishment would probably cause them to collapse from exhaustion. Thus, many people looked at the instructor with eyes filled with reverence. Reading comfortably actually, the one with the most complicated feelings was none other than Ding Xiaowan. The moment she saw Tang Zheng, she almost couldn't believe her eyes. How could this hoodlum be a student of Swallow Capital University, and even be in the same formation as her? She couldn't help but think of the scene at the train station. He was picked up by a tall beauty in a luxurious car. The others guessed for a long time, but none of them could guess who he was. Just now, when Ding Xiaowan saw Yi Dingyi on the stage, she immediately recognized her as the tall beauty who drove the luxurious car. And now, Tang Zheng was standing in front of her alive, causing her to have mixed feelings. She originally thought that he was a hoodlum, and at most, he would only go to a third-rate university, but now, he had become her schoolmate. Sinosaurus glanced at Tang Zheng and said, Instructor, you have wronged a good person. Just now, I was talking to myself and he did not say anything. It is not fair for you to punish him. The instructor frowned, and said, You still want to listen to loyalty, right? Today, I will let you know that military training is not treating you to a meal. You have come to the wrong place. Tang Zheng looked at Sinosaurus in astonishment. This big guy actually helped him out, and he couldn't help but have a good impression of this roommate. Sinosaurus curled his lips, Instructor, look at how thin his body is. If you want to torment him like this, be careful that he doesn't die, then the gains won't make up for the losses. The instructor glanced at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was not thin compared to ordinary people, but compared to Sinosaurus who had a tiger's back and a bear's waist, he was a little thin. But facing Sinosaurus's provocation, how could the instructor retreat? He shouted, You still dare to threaten me? Neither of you can escape, you must accept the punishment together. Sinosaurus helplessly shrugged his shoulders and patted Tang Zheng's shoulder. Third brother, if you can't take it, just say it. At most, I'll help you take the punishment. Tang Zheng smiled and shook his head. No need. Seeing how relaxed the two of them were, the instructor was furious. Since you don't care about this little punishment, I'll give you a harsh one. Since the two of you said so, then the punishment will be doubled. Otherwise, you won't understand the severity of your mistake. The instructor looked at the two of them proudly. Sinosaurus's expression changed slightly. Even with his physique, it was almost impossible for him to finish 2 to 4 push-ups in one go and then run 6 kilometers continuously. F***ck, How ruthless, Sinosaurus cursed. When the instructor saw that Sinosaurus's expression had changed slightly, he felt proud in his heart. Kid, I don't believe that I can't teach you a lesson. But when he turned to look at Tang Zheng, he found that Tang Zheng's expression was calm, as if nothing had happened. He couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. This kid didn't seem to be afraid at all. You're pretending to be calm now, but you'll be complaining later. The instructor thought in his heart and shouted, push-ups. The two of them had no choice but to lie down and do push-ups while the others watched with rapt attention. The two of them went up and down and did 50 push-ups in a short while, but they still acted as if nothing had happened. Everyone was secretly speechless. Everyone could see that Sinosaurus's physique was good, but they never expected that Tang Zheng's physique was not inferior. Under the scorching sun, beads of sweat appeared on the two of their foreheads, but their movements did not stop at all. At this moment, even the instructor's eyes flashed with surprise. The physique of the two of them was really good, especially the silent kid. He didn't seem to show his talent, but he actually had such endurance. The instructor paid more attention to Tang Zheng and found that his breathing was not the slightest bit disordered, but Sinosaurus's breathing was a little hurried. Especially after 200 push-ups, Sinosaurus's hands began to tremble, and his movements became slower and slower. His back was completely soaked, and his face was sweating like rain. His cheeks were flushed, and his breathing was rapid like a bellows. On the other hand, Tang Zheng's forehead only had a few beads of sweat. His breathing was normal, and his face was calm, as if he was just taking a stroll. This punishment was really not difficult for Tang Zheng. The true qi in his body was running in his meridians, completely offsetting the heat. His whole body was just doing the simplest mechanical movements. The instructor's face finally changed, and he stared straight at Tang Zheng. It was difficult to hide the surprise in his heart. This kid's physique is too strong. Even if he was to do such high-intensity movements, it would be impossible for him to do it like Tang Zheng. The other students looked at Tang Zheng as if they were looking at an alien. Even an idiot would know how awesome this was, but Tang Zheng was able to do it so easily. In the square, many girls looked at Tang Zheng with eager eyes. The boys even speculated with bad intentions. This brother's physical strength is so strong, his skills in bed must be very good. Pa! Suddenly, Sinosaurus pushed up to 300 push-ups, and finally couldn't hold on anymore. He lay on the ground, his face red, and he was panting like an ox. How is it? Tang Zheng asked. Damn, the instructor is really ruthless. I'm exhausted. I can't hold on anymore. Sinosaurus said weakly. The instructor finally showed a trace of pride. Kid, didn't you provoke me? Now you know how powerful I am. Get up and continue. This is only 300. You haven't finished the task yet. The instructor said without any trace of politeness. Weren't you very powerful just now? Why can't you do it now? Sinosaurus wanted to die. This instructor was too sinister. He actually added so many push-ups all of a sudden. It completely exceeded his load. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at Tang Zheng. He found that he was doing it very easily. It didn't seem like he was suffering, but rather like he was enjoying it. Damn, Lao San is the one hiding his strength. I actually misjudged him. Sinosaurus rolled his eyes. Tang Zheng stopped, looked up at the instructor and said, Instructor, I'll do the rest for him. The instructor's eyes trembled as he stared at Tang Zheng. He was very shocked. This kid had already done 300 push-ups, and he was still able to continue. Then what was his limit? Okay, since you want to be brave, then I'll help you. But if you want to do it in his place, then it won't be 100, but 200. The others were shocked. 200. That meant they had to do 600 push-ups in one go. Just thinking about this number made their backs ache. Everyone looked at Tang Zheng. They felt that he definitely wouldn't be able to accept this kind of punishment. Only a fool would agree. Sinosaurus also got up again. As he prepared to continue, he advised, "It's okay, Lao-san, I'll do it." "Instructor, you have to keep your word." "I'll continue." Tang Zheng touched the ground with one hand and patted Sinosaurus on the shoulder with the other hand and said, "It's okay, I'll do it." As he spoke, Tang Zheng actually used one hand to do a few push-ups. Sinosaurus was stunned. He hesitated and nodded. Previously, he and Do Long had maintained the same rhythm, and their speed was not fast. Now that he was alone, his speed quickly increased, and everyone felt as if they were looking at a machine, moving endlessly, without the slightest pause, as if they were looking at a machine, moving endlessly, without the slightest pause, as smooth as flowing water. Sinosaurus sat at the side. He was dumbfounded and sucked in a breath of cold air. The other students' eyes were about to pop out. How could this kid's body be so strong? The instructor was flabbergasted. Was this kid still human? He subconsciously looked at the high platform and found that the leader was also looking in his direction. One of them had an eagle-like gaze. It was the commander of this military training, Kai Guibin. He was the one who had noticed Tang Zheng's gaze. At this moment, seeing a student actually do a few hundred push-ups, he couldn't help but be curious. If such a good seedling was nurtured in the army, he would definitely become an outstanding soldier. He walked straight over. When the instructor saw the commander coming, he became nervous and quickly saluted. Kai Guibin nodded and asked, "How many have you done?" 500. The instructor was speechless. Kai Guibin nodded and stared straight at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng seemed to feel something. He raised his head and looked at Kai Guibin before continuing to work hard. This kid's body didn't have the slightest fluctuation of internal strength. He wasn't a martial artist. How could he have such strong physical strength? The other students were also excited by Tang Zheng's actions. Many of them had already started to count to him. 560, 561, 598, come on, 599, 600, wow. It was unknown who took the lead, but the applause was thunderous. Everyone cheered. Even the people from the other square formations looked over. Tang Zheng flipped over and cleanly stood up, saying, reporting to instructor, "It is done." The instructor smacked his lips. He couldn't hide his surprise. He was at a loss. He didn't know if he should continue the punishment. He subconsciously looked at the commander but saw the commander nodding calmly. The instructor's face sank. "Run. And you've rested for so long. Don't even think about slacking off." Sinosaurus immediately jumped up from the ground. He laughed and ran with Tang Zheng. Everyone else is dismissed. Everyone dispersed. Their eyes involuntarily fell on Tang Zheng's body. He had just finished doing push-ups and was running. He wasn't even out of breath. What kind of body was this? "Commander. I didn't lead a good soldier. Please punish me." The instructor felt that he had lost face after making such a big joke. Kai Guibin didn't move. His eyes followed Tang Zheng's steps. After a long time, he said, "Not only are you not at fault, but you have done a good job. You actually found such a good seedling. Find out his information for me." "Yes." The instructor was happy. He knew that the commander's old habit was acting up again. He loved to recruit talents. This kid must have entered his eyes. He couldn't help but envy this kid. 6 kilometers wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. To Tang Zheng, it was naturally a piece of cake. Sinosaurus rested for a while and was able to run. "OL3, your body looks thin, but how can it be so fierce? How did you train?" Sinosaurus asked in disbelief. Tang Zheng smiled faintly, "I blindly trained." "You're not bad either. You've persisted for so long and have already surpassed many people." Sinosaurus was very self-aware, and said, "My insignificant skills are nothing compared to yours. OL2, OL3, you guys are all freaks. It's really an eye-opener." Zhou Yan actually ran over and walked side by side with the two of them. Ha, OL4, now you know how powerful we are. Sinosaurus was very pleased with himself. You're powerful, but you're not as powerful as OL3. Today, I've truly seen what a fierce person is. OL3, you've become famous in one fell swoop this time. I think no one in the school will be able to break your record in the future. Zhou Yan exclaimed. Yeah, OL3 has really broadened our horizons. Wang Shiji also caught up. Hey, the two of you aren't punished. Why are you running under such a big sun? Tang Zheng said. Hee, we'll share our blessings and hardships together. We 502 are a group, right? We didn't do the push-ups together, but we can still run now. Zhou Yan said. Wang Shiji also nodded. Tang Zheng and Sinosaurus looked at each other. They were brothers. Hey, boss, look at Longlegs walking over. Sinosaurus's eyes widened in surprise. Wow, could it be that she was convinced by my heroic actions just now and threw herself into my arms? Chapter 262. Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji raised their heads at the same time. Their eyes flashed with amazement as the tall beauty walked straight towards the four of them. Sinosaurus said excitedly, Look, she really came to find me. Zhou Yang said, Lao Er, don't be narcissistic. Lao San was stronger than you just now. If she wanted to throw herself into his arms, she would be looking for Lao San. How could it be your turn? Wang Shiji nodded his head in agreement with Zhou Yang's words. Damn, you guys are jealous of me. I think I'm more handsome than Lao San. Just watch, don't let your eyeballs fall to the ground. Sinosaurus quickened his pace and ran towards Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang brushed past him. Sinosaurus was stunned on the spot. Why isn't she looking for me? He stopped and turned around. He saw Yi Dingdang stop in front of Tang Zheng, blocking his path. This scene immediately attracted the attention of countless people, and Tang Zheng once again became the focus of attention. Tang Zheng didn't like the feeling of being the focus of attention. He frowned, not knowing what Yi Dingdang was up to this time. What's the matter? Tang Zheng asked indifferently. Yi Dingdang stared straight at him with a smile that was not a smile. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and her beauty was soul-stirring. Even Tang Zheng couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. Proportion Yi Dingdang was even more charming than before. Her every frown and smile was filled with allure. Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji clearly saw this soul-stirring smile. Wang Shiji's face immediately turned red, and Zhou Yan had to admit that Yi Dingdang was even more beautiful when she approached than when she was on the stage. However, this smile was not directed at the two of them, but at Tang Zheng. The key point was that Tang Zheng's face was clearly a little impatient. Impatient? Damn, am I seeing things? His third brother was actually impatient with such a stunning beauty. Tang Zheng, did you feel a sense of defeat when you watched me speak on stage today? Yi Dingdang went straight to the point. What sense of defeat? Tang Zheng was confused. I've beaten you. That's why you're using this method to get so much attention. Isn't it because you want to resolve this frustration? Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is that what you think? Am I that boring? I hit the nail on the head, so you want to deny it, right? It's useless even if you deny it. In any case, this time I've beaten you. Yi Dingdang said complacently. I don't want to compete with you in this. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. There's no need for me to use my weakness to attack your strengths. Yi Dingdang pursed her lips and said, so you want to use your strong points to attack my weak points? Then you have an unfair advantage. Using her strong points to attack her weak points. Zhou Yan gave an evil laugh. Tang Zheng's heart moved and he also thought of another meaning. He couldn't help but glare at Zhou Yan. His fourth brother looked gentle and refined, but his thoughts were too wretched. Seeing everyone snickering, Yi Dingdang was completely unaware of the other meaning in her words. She persistently asked, "Say something. Aren't you just trying to use your strong points to attack my weak points? Today, I finally found a way to turn defeat into victory. Our bet will be changed. As long as I beat you in any aspect, you have to admit that you're not as good as me in front of everyone." Her voice was relatively loud, and the people nearby heard it clearly. Especially the sentence about their strengths and weaknesses, it caused waves of malicious laughter in the crowd. The gazes that looked at the two of them were filled with an inexplicable ambiguity. Everyone was filled with envy and jealousy towards Tang Zheng. What was so good about this brat that he could actually make a peerless beauty like Yi Dingdang entangle with him? Tang Zheng felt a headache coming on. Why was Yi Dingdang's competitive nature getting stronger and stronger? When did I agree to change the bet? In any case, I've decided to change it. I'm informing you now. Oh, right, this time, a group of people will be selected to go to the army to gain experience. Don't be too rigid with the officers. Also, Yi Dingdang moved closer and whispered in his ear, also, there are many experts in the army. It's a good opportunity for us to gain experience. Tang Zheng's heart moved. He thoughtfully nodded and said, I understand. Ha, then you continue to run. Yi Dingdang said and swaggered away, leaving only a moving figure behind. The three members of Unit 502 immediately surrounded Tang Zheng and stared at him like a tiger eyeing its prey. Old 3, you really hit it well. Speak, what is your relationship with this long-legged beauty? Is there really no relationship? Zhou Yan pinched his chin and looked up and down. Impossible, the two of you actually have a bet. What kind of bet is it? Tell everyone. Women's affairs are so boring. Don't talk nonsense. I definitely don't believe you. Old 3, you're not honest. Also, what did she whisper to you in the end? Tell me the truth. Tang Zheng spread out his hands and said, it's really nothing. Don't think too much. Sinosaurus said dejectedly, this is too hurtful. Old 3, I feel that my charm is obviously greater than yours. Furthermore, I feel more secure. How could such a beauty not like me and like you? She really doesn't like me. Tang Zheng was at a loss for words, so he simply pointed in the direction of the instructor. The instructor is watching, don't say any more. If he adds a few thousand meters later, that would be terrible. Alright, we'll let you off for now. We'll interrogate you properly in the future. Zhou Yan said. After running for 6,000 meters, the few of them had different reactions. Zhou Yan was so tired that he could only breathe out and not breathe in. Dou Long and Wang Shiji were also quite tired, but it was not that exaggerated. Tang Zheng's face was still not red and his heart was not beating fast. The days of military training were the same, but they were also filled with the passion of youth. Tang Zheng had undoubtedly become the focus of attention since the first day. Although he had been punished, the series of training that followed all revealed his excellent qualities. Standing in a military posture, walking in a straight line, and other movements, he was like a veteran who had served for several years. Even the instructor's impression of him had completely changed. There was an additional trace of admiration in his eyes. Every time he trained, there would always be Kai Guibin's figure not far away. The regiment commander's gaze towards Tang Zheng became brighter and brighter. Tang Zheng also noticed the other party, but he did not pay too much attention to it. Just as Yi Dingdang had said, the military wanted to select outstanding people to train in the army this time. Tang Zheng thought that this was a good opportunity, so he deliberately performed very well in front of the regiment commander and fought for a spot this time. At the same time, there were other outstanding people who stood out. Yi Dingdang was one of the best. She had the foundation of a martial artist, and among these students, she was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Countless gazes were focused on her body. Many people were moved, and some people had already put it into practice and started to pursue her. However, Yi Dingdang did not fall for this at all. The others immediately knew that this sonorous rose was not that easy to pick, so no one was in such a hurry to confess. At the same time, the performance of the other people in room 502 was also very outstanding. Wang Shiji's family was from the countryside, so they usually did a lot of farm work, and their physical fitness was even better than Zhou Yan's. However, under the lead of the three people in the dormitory, Zhou Yan was too embarrassed to give up, so after persevering day after day, his physical fitness had also undergone a qualitative leap, becoming one of the best in their group. And what surprised Tang Zheng the most was Ding Xiaowan. Her foundation was not bad either, she stood out from the girls, and due to her good looks, she and Yi Dingdang became the two most eye-catching flowers. After today's routine training was over, the others were dismissed. The 26 elites of the entire school were left behind, standing like javelins, waiting for their commanding officer to lecture them. Tang Zheng saw Takashi among these 20 or so people. Takashi was a star that was not inferior to Tang Zheng in this military training. Furthermore, he was very cooperative with the training and did not go against the instructors at all. Other than Tang Zheng, the people Kai Guibin paid attention to every day were Takashi and Yi Dingdang. Especially Takashi's leadership ability in his own team was even better than Tang Zheng's, which made Kai Guibin quite satisfied. Kai Guibin walked in front of everyone with a serious expression, and said with a sonorous voice, "Attention, at ease." Everyone's movements were neat and orderly, as if they were done by one person. This was the perfect result of the past 10 days of training. Everyone looked at Kai Guibin nervously or excitedly. Many well-informed people already knew that the military was preparing to select the best among the students to train in the army. This was an attempt. Nowadays, the scientific requirements of the military were getting higher and higher, and Yenqing University was one of the best universities. Those who could get into this school were naturally the most outstanding students. Therefore, the military planned to select candidates from these new students and select the best among them to be nurtured by the military and the school. In the future, the students would even follow the army to carry out missions. This was a completely different approach from the military academy. It was an idea proposed by a certain big shot in the army, and this time, it was an experimental stage. If it was successful, then it could continue to be promoted in the future. Therefore, as one of the executors, Kai Guibin attached great importance to it. After observing for so many days, he selected 26 people from thousands of people. It could be said that it was 1 in 100. I believe that everyone has already heard that we will be selecting the best among the military to receive another type of training in the real army. Everyone here is the best among the thousands of people, and will be fortunate enough to participate in the following training. But first, I must say that the following training will be very difficult, and even life-threatening. If you are afraid, you can withdraw now, and no one will laugh at you. But once you join, then you must wait until the training is over, otherwise you will be treated as a deserter. Do you know how deserters are dealt with on the battlefield? Reporting, I know. Do Long's loud voice was filled with energy as he roared. Speak. Execution by firing squad. Sinosaurus's answer was sonorous and powerful, and filled with the smell of iron and blood. Yes, execution by firing squad. Running away is a stain on our military uniform, and a stain on the national emblem above our heads. It is absolutely not allowed. Although you are students, when you accept this training, you are temporarily no longer students, but soldiers. If you run away, I will still shoot your head, and I will not show you any mercy. I am not joking, so please reconsider. If you are not willing to accept this mission, come out immediately. I will allow you to discuss with each other, and give me an answer in 3 minutes. When these words came out, everyone's expression changed. They looked at each other, and no one expected that this so-called training would be so cruel. Chapter 263. Sinosaurus glanced at the dormitory members and asked in a low voice, "What do you guys think?" Zhou Yan cowered a little and said, "He made it sound so dangerous. Wouldn't it be a 9 out of 10 chance of survival? We're here to study, not to sell our lives. Sinosaurus nodded. That makes sense. What about the two of you? Wang Shiji timidly raised his eyelids and said, if we go, will there be any benefits in the future? Zhou Yan chuckled. Benefits? It's good as long as you don't lose your head. Wang Shiji shook his head and said, I don't think I'll lose my head. It wasn't easy for me to get into Beijing University. My luck isn't that bad, right? That's right. It wasn't easy for you to get into Beijing University. There's no need to risk your life. Otherwise, if you die, won't your family's bloodline be cut off? Zhou Yan advised. Even if I die, my family's bloodline won't be cut off. I still have 2 older brothers. F*ck, your family has so many brothers, aren't they too good at giving birth? Zhou Yan was shocked. Most of the children in the city were only children in this generation. Wang Shiji was a little embarrassed. Our hometown has a lot of children. My family has 5 children, and I have 2 older sisters. Sinosaurus also widened his eyes in shock. He patted Wang Shiji's shoulder and sighed, your father is really amazing. No. There's no other way. Our place is poor. We have to give birth to a few more so that our family can work. Wang Shiji said shyly. Seeing that Wang Shiji was embarrassed, Tang Zhen quickly changed the topic and said, there will definitely be danger this time, but it's also an opportunity. I will go. Sinosaurus glanced at him and said without hesitation, then of course I won't go. With your small body, you'll definitely be bullied in the army. I want to protect you. Zhou Yan rolled his eyes at him and said, TSK, I think it's third brother who should be protecting you. Your indicators this time aren't as beautiful as third brother's. Fighting is not the same as training. Whoever has the biggest fist and strength is the winner. Third brother, don't worry, I will definitely protect you. Sinosaurus wasn't shy at all as he vowed solemnly. Wang Shiji gritted his teeth and said, I'll go too. I believe that if I do well this time, it will definitely help me find a job in the future. Boss, you're thinking quite far ahead. You've just entered the school and you're already thinking about graduation. Zhou Yan couldn't help but laugh. Wang Shiji blushed and said, prepare for the rainy day, prepare for the rainy day. Sinosaurus patted Zhou Yan's shoulder and said, fourth bro, all 3 of us are going. You won't not go, right? Be careful of being alone in the dorm. A female ghost might climb into your bed in the middle of the night. F*ck, don't mention female ghosts to me. Zhou Yan's face turned pale. The fact that this guy was afraid of ghosts was exposed during a late-night discussion. No one knew who started it, but they started to talk about the supernatural stories they had heard, scaring Zhou Yan to the point that he hid under his blanket and shivered. His face was deathly pale, causing the other 3 to burst into laughter. Zhou Yan cursed hatefully, F*ck, you bunch of disloyal fellows, leaving me alone in the dorm. Alright, at worst, I'll give up my life. I'll go too. Third bro, when the time comes, you have to take care of me. Don't let me die. With my protection, why are you looking for third bro? Don't worry, a dragon will definitely be in place. The 4 of us will definitely come back unscathed. Sinosaurus patted his chest and guaranteed. Wang Shiji said weakly, usually, when you say something like this in a TV series, someone will definitely die later on. F*ck, boss, you jinx. Sinosaurus and Zhou Yan shouted at the same time. Pa. Nothing will happen. I was just saying it casually. TV series are all fake. Wang Shiji said embarrassedly. Looking at their interesting expressions, Tang Zheng's heart felt exceptionally warm. His high school life was relatively simple. Other than Fang Shishi, Yi Dingdang, and Feng Yong, he had almost no interactions with anyone else. When he came to university, although the 3 of them came from all over the world and had different personalities, they gave Tang Zheng a very comfortable feeling. Ever since they ran the 6 kilometers together, Tang Zheng had made up his mind to make friends with these three. No matter what the future path was, at least being with these three made him feel the sincere friendship of classmates. In fact, Tang Zheng had a rough plan for the 4 years of university, but one of them was that he would definitely not follow the rules of every class like a normal university student. He had a lot of his own things to do, and this period of military training was only a temporary transition. Time's up. Kai Guibin shouted, those who have decided to withdraw, step out. Dong dong dong. The 6 of them jogged out, their faces slightly red. It was obvious that they were embarrassed and did not dare to look at the others. Kai Guibin expressionlessly waved his hand, indicating for the other instructors to bring the 6 of them away. Then, he swept his gaze across the remaining 20 people. He was very satisfied that the few people he had been observing did not back down. Tang Zheng was also sizing up the people around him. What surprised him the most was that Ding Xiaowan actually stayed behind. This brainless fan had quite the guts. However, when he saw Ding Xiaowan and Takashi inadvertently exchanging glances, he suddenly realized that it was because Takashi had stayed behind. Tang Zheng did not have the mood to gossip. As long as Takashi did not provoke him, he was not prepared to deal with him for the time being. However, when he saw Yi Dingdang's eager eyes, he felt a headache coming on. This girl must have mustered up all her energy and was prepared to suppress him in this training. Yi Dingdang, you want to suppress me? You don't have the chance. I'm the only one who can suppress you. Tang Zheng cursed in his heart. Next, everyone hand over their communication tools, we will immediately set off for the military base. From this moment on, for the next 10 days, you will not be able to contact the outside world, so if you want to call home, you can do so now. Kai Guibin said. Everyone quickly took action and called home to explain the situation. Of course, they did not dare to say that this training was filled with unknown dangers, otherwise, most of their parents would definitely jump up and object. Now, many people dared to stay, mostly because of the hot-bloodedness accumulated during this period of military training. Most of them were not rational, but those who left were the most rational. After the call, everyone's phones were confiscated, and even their wallets were taken away. They boarded 2 military vehicles without a single penny and left. The military vehicle was completely sealed. The roof of the car was lit up, and not a single ray of light could be seen from the outside. It was an enclosed space, and other than the bumpy feeling that told them that they were sitting in a car, it actually felt more like they were imprisoned in a cage. However, the people in the car were all very excited as they chattered about what the next training would be. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was not very excited, he only listened quietly, and the one with a similar expression was Yi Dingdang. There were 10 people in this car, and among them were the members of dormitory 502 and Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang had undoubtedly become the focus of everyone's attention, but her cold and aloof behavior made many people stay away, and not many people had the guts to strike up a conversation with her. Yi Dingdang looked at Tang Zheng with a faint smile, causing Sinosaurus to nudge Tang Zheng's shoulder and whisper, "Third bro, Beauty Yi is looking at you. Why aren't you responding?" Yi Dingdang's name was already well known, and almost no one among the freshmen did not know her name. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and said, "What's the point of responding? It's better to conserve energy. There will definitely be a lot of hardship in the upcoming training. Hee, what's there to be afraid of? It's a piece of cake. The key is that if I don't respond when a beauty is looking at me like that, wouldn't it be rude? As the second in command of our dormitory, I have the responsibility and obligation to protect the honor of the members of dormitory 502. Sinosaurus looked like he was going to die for justice. He coughed and gave Yi Dingdang a smile that he thought was brilliant. "Yi Dingdang, my name is Sinosaurus, and I'm Tang Zheng's good brother. If you have any problems in the future, you can look for me. Moreover, I will protect you during this training. I know you. You're the second in command of dormitory 502, Sinosaurus." Yi Dingdang smiled. Sinosaurus beamed with joy, "You actually know me? I'm so honored and happy to meet you. If you have any problems in the future, just mention my name, Sinosaurus. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll beat them to death. Yidingdang's smile became even more brilliant as she said, you really are a warm-hearted person. Then can the two of us change positions? No problem. It's my honor to be able to serve a beauty. Sinosaurus was so excited that his cheeks flushed red. However, as soon as he stood up, he realized that they had switched places. Wasn't Yidingdang sitting next to OL3? Although the others were talking, they were also constantly paying attention to Yidingdang's movements. When they heard that she had taken the initiative to sit next to Tang Zheng, they all revealed looks of envy. Tang Zheng, this brat, was really good with women. He actually made the great beauty Yi take the initiative. Bang! With a muffled sound, the car suddenly jolted and flipped over. Almost everyone subconsciously screamed. Yidingdang had just stood up and was about to switch seats, but she immediately lost her balance and fell straight into Tang Zheng's arms. Tang Zheng subconsciously reached out to stop her, but he realized that his hands were pressed against her soft body. Yidingdang's body tensed up. She immediately stared at Tang Zheng with her eyes wide open. However, before she could react, the entire car rumbled and flipped over to the ground. Many people crashed into each other like Tang Zheng and Yidingdang. Screams rose and fell one after another, almost breaking out of the enclosed car. What's going on? Almost everyone had this question in their hearts at the same time. However, before they could think about it carefully, a series of gunshots disrupted their thoughts. The gunshots were getting closer and closer. Even though they were separated by the car, they could hear them clearly. Especially for Tang Zheng, who was very familiar with the sound of gunshots, his nerves instantly tensed up. How could there be gunshots? Yidingdang clearly also thought of this problem. She didn't have time to care about Tang Zheng taking advantage of her. She quickly stood up and escaped from Tang Zheng's clutches. The others also stood up with difficulty. Fortunately, no one was injured in the flip. However, everyone's expressions were not good. They were at a loss for what to do. A girl directly cried. Chapter 264. The cries caused everyone to be at a loss as they tried to guess what was going on. Fairy, Tang Zheng's face sank as he said, "Don't cry. I'll go out and see what's going on." His intuition told him that this matter was extremely abnormal. So he opened the back door of the car and quickly slipped out. When he saw the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but be stunned. Damn, why are we in the wilderness? There was a dense forest outside and he couldn't tell the direction. But compared to the vast Shirwan Mountains, it was clearly inferior. Tang Zheng calmed his mind and ran directly to the driver's seat. Whoosh! A bullet whizzed past Tang Zheng's shoulder. The hot air wave caused his body to tighten. He saw the two soldiers in the driver's seat were covered in blood. They were silent and he didn't know if they were dead or alive. Bang bang! Another 2 gunshots were heard. The two soldiers' chests immediately bloomed with blood. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He wasn't afraid. He immediately looked in the direction of the source of the gunshots. It was a dense forest. He couldn't see the enemy's situation clearly. But there was no doubt that the enemy was crazy. They actually wanted to take their lives. The others also got out of the car one after another. The 10 of them were unharmed. But when they saw the scene in the driver's seat, many of them subconsciously screamed. Their faces turned pale. They shivered and their legs went soft. They almost couldn't walk. Let's go. Don't look. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. Everyone woke up from their dream. They found that their legs couldn't move. How could they still run? Yidingdang wasn't afraid. Instead, she was a little excited and said, "What enemy is it?" "I don't know. Anyway, there must be a lot of people. Moreover, their firepower is strong. Let's not stay here and be live targets. Let's go." Tang Zheng turned around and rushed into the forest. But when he looked back, there were still 3 people standing there like wooden stakes. Tang Zheng's face sank and said, "Second brother, you go and take that boy away. Ding Dang, you go and take that girl. I'll take the other boy." These 3 were undoubtedly the ones with the strongest physiques in this team, and their mental fortitude was not weak either. Therefore, Tang Zheng gave this order to them. Since the members of Dorm 502 had Tang Zheng as their backbone, even though they were afraid, they still managed to keep up with Tang Zheng's pace. Their legs were not so weak that they could not walk. The 3 of them immediately took action. At this moment, a boy rushed out and hugged the dazed girl. He shouted, "Wang Tong, be careful." Then, the 2 of them rolled down the mountain together. Whoosh! A bullet hit the spot where Wang Tong had been standing, stirring up a cloud of dust. Everyone was shocked. The enemy had already shot at them. It was too crazy. Tang Zheng and Sinosaurus were quick to react. They immediately grabbed the 2 dazed boys and ran into the woods. As for the 2 people who were rolling, they also rolled into the forest. They seemed to be in a sorry state, especially the boy whose clothes were torn. However, during the process of rolling, he had been tightly hugging the girl to protect her, so the girl was not injured at all. The 10 of them fled into the woods and gathered behind the hill. Many of them were still in shock, and their faces were as pale as a sheet of white paper. Tang Zheng looked at the 2 people who had rolled and asked, "Are you 2 hurt?" The girl clearly just came back to her senses and shook her head, "I'm fine." Then, she nervously looked at the boy next to her and asked with concern, "Guosu, are you hurt? Why are you so stupid? You actually risked your life for me." She couldn't help but cry as she spoke. The others were ashamed of their inferiority. Just now, everyone was running for their lives. Other than Tang Zheng, only this boy named Guosu was the bravest. He actually threw himself at Wang Tong and saved her life. Otherwise, that bullet would definitely have hit her. Guosu scratched his head and said shyly, "I saw that you were in danger, so of course I had to save you." Hearing this, Wang Tong was touched and her cheeks were a little red. When the others saw this, they thought that it was a hero saving a beauty. This brat Guosu had obviously made the beauty feel touched. This girl named Wang Tong was delicate and pretty. She was obviously a beauty from a humble family. Guosu had taken advantage of her. Many people were secretly regretting that they didn't have the courage to do so. "Silly, let me check if you're hurt." Wang Tong was on the verge of tears. She started to check Guosu's body, causing Guosu's face to turn red. Tang Zheng didn't pay attention to the couple. Instead, he turned to the others and said solemnly, "This time, we encountered an attack. Let's brainstorm and discuss what to do next." Everyone frowned and was at a loss. Wang Shiji rolled his eyes and asked, "Where's the other car? Didn't we leave with 2 cars? Tang Zheng glanced at him with admiration. Wang Shiji was usually introverted, but he was calmer than many people at critical moments. It was truly commendable. Yi Dingdang said, "I just observed and there were only traces of 1 car. This means that we're the only car on this road. Then where did the other car go?" Yi Dingdang fell silent and looked at Tang Zheng. The others also couldn't help looking at Tang Zheng. Without a doubt, after what happened just now, Tang Zheng had become the well-deserved leader. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice, "No matter where the other car went, in short, we're in a very passive situation. We're still in danger, so let's leave this place first." Tang Zheng glanced in the direction of the gunshots. There were obviously sporadic gunshots. He couldn't help but frown. Logically speaking, the other party had such powerful firepower. They should have attacked quickly to deal with a few students. Why did they have to be so slow? Let's not care about this for now. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave this place first. The 10 people quickly retreated into the forest. The mountain was high and the forest was dense. It was impossible to tell the direction. Moreover, they didn't have any communication tools and couldn't contact the outside world. If it wasn't for Tang Zheng as their backbone, perhaps some of them wouldn't have the courage to escape. The gunshots finally stopped and the sky gradually darkened. The road ahead seemed to have no end. Many people already felt tired and walked slower and slower. Whoosh! A person quickly jumped out. It was Tang Zheng, who had gone to scout the road, who had returned. "How is it?" everyone asked at the same time. "There's an abandoned wooden house not far ahead. Let's stay there for the night. Everyone is tired. We'll find a way out tomorrow," Tang Zheng said. If he was alone, he could do anything. This forest wouldn't be able to trap him at all. Moreover, he could find the enemy's rear and figure out what was going on. But now, he had so many people with him, and these people all treated him as the backbone, so his freedom was restricted. If he left these people, there was no doubt that these people were headless flies. Other than Yi Dingdang, the others would probably be buried in this vast mountain. Just now, he had climbed up a tree and looked around. There were mountains and forests in all directions, but he couldn't see any cities or villages, which surprised him. He immediately remembered that there was a huge mountain range northwest of the capital. They were definitely in this mountain range. But who was the attacker? What was the use of attacking these students? Tang Zheng couldn't figure it out. They arrived at the wooden house in a moment. Everyone excitedly rushed into the wooden house. This place had obviously been abandoned for a long time, but at least it was a place to shelter them from the wind and rain, allowing them to finally breathe a sigh of relief. After tidying up the wooden house, everyone sat down and leaned against the wall to rest. Tang Zheng went out for a while and came back with a few wild hares and pheasants in his hand. He also had a torch in his hand, which dispelled the darkness and made everyone's hearts light up. "Wow, you actually went hunting, and you even got so much." The others were shocked and sincerely admired Tang Zheng. It's easy to find food in this mountain forest, so everyone doesn't have to worry about going hungry. "I'll make food." Sinosaurus volunteered and took over the task of cooking. Seeing that everyone gradually lost their sense of fear, Tang Zheng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Looking at the dark night sky and the vast mountain forest outside, he couldn't help but recall the scene in the 100,000 Mountains. They had survived such a difficult time, so this was a piece of cake. He must take these people out of this mountain forest. He couldn't help but think of Xiaobai. If it was here, it would definitely be a lot more fun. Feng Yong must have already taken Xiaobai away, so he didn't have to worry about this at all. Before he handed over the phone, he had already arranged this matter. During the time he was gone, Xiaobai would be taken care of by Feng Yong. As for whether Xiaobai could spit fire or not, he couldn't control it for the time being. He could only pray that Xiaobai wouldn't cause too much trouble for him. Yi Dingdang walked over and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "Nothing. You did very well today, leading everyone to successfully escape. Everyone is very grateful to you. Moreover, I have to admit, this time your ability to adapt to the situation is stronger than mine," Yi Dingdang said with heartfelt admiration. Tang Zheng grinned and said, "That doesn't sound like something you would say." Don't think that I will admit defeat just because of this. I will always find a way to defeat you." Yi Dingdang curled her lips and said disapprovingly. "Let's leave this place first. Where are we right now?" "I think it's in the mountain range northwest of the capital," Tang Zheng said. "Ah." Yi Dingdang was shocked. "What's wrong?" "I heard from the grapevine that there are terrorists in this mountain range." "Terrorists?" Tang Zheng was shocked. This news was too shocking. This is near the capital. How could there be terrorists? "You don't know this, but recently, the situation in the country has been very serious. A while ago, there was a terrorist incident in the capital, and in the south, there was a situation where passers-by were killed at the train station. The group of terrorists in the capital were chased into this mountain range, and this mountain range is too big. It's not realistic to use a net search method, so they are still at large. Could it be that the ones who attacked us this time are terrorists? Tang Zheng wasn't afraid of terrorists, but he was very curious. In the capital, only this group of fugitives would dare to deal with a military vehicle. Yi Dingdang said with certainty. Chapter 265. No matter who it was that dealt with the military vehicles, Tang Zheng and the others were in a very dangerous situation. They were temporarily trapped in the mountains and had completely lost contact with the outside world. No matter how much they cried, the only thing they could rely on was themselves. After everyone ate roasted rabbit and roasted chicken for dinner, they started to discuss among themselves. In the end, they decided to find a way down the mountain early in the morning. Only by leaving this forest would it be safest. Moreover, they believed that the military would not ignore so many of them. They would definitely send people to rescue them. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang did not tell the others about the terrorists. Otherwise, they would feel even more pressure, and if they were not careful, their taut heartstrings would break. Only when it was almost midnight did everyone snuggle up to each other with apprehension. Other than Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang, this was the first time the others had experienced such a dangerous and terrifying thing. They had also experienced a long journey of escape, so they were both physically and mentally exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Tang Zheng was not completely asleep, he was constantly on guard. The safety of these people was tied to him, he did not dare to let his guard down. At 3 or 4 in the morning, a series of extremely light footsteps sounded. Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes and turned his head to look outside the door. In the darkness, he could not see anything clearly, but the thick darkness was like a huge mouth, as if it wanted to devour someone. Tang Zheng was not in a hurry to act. Instead, he stared straight in the direction of the sound. A few figures quickly approached and soon arrived in front of the wooden house. Tang Zheng could clearly see that the other party carried guns with them, and they were all covered with hoods, so he could not see their faces. At first glance, he could tell that they were not good people. Yi Dingdang also opened her eyes and raised her head to look outside the door. She was very close to Tang Zheng and Tang Zheng could clearly feel her restless thoughts. He hurriedly gave her a look without batting an eyelid, indicating for her to stay calm and not move. A few people stood outside the door and observed for a while. As if confirming that the people inside were already asleep, 2 of them quickly rushed in. 2 black muzzles were pointed at Qian Ping, as if they could pull the trigger at any time. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were leaning against the door. When they saw the 2 of them step into the wooden house, Tang Zheng quickly moved and pounced over. At the same time, Yi Dingdang was not willing to fall behind. She chopped a person's neck with her hand and the person immediately fainted. Tang Zheng directly captured the other party alive. In the blink of an eye, the gun in the enemy's hands was in Tang Zheng's hands, and the cold muzzle was pressed firmly against the other party's temple. This turn of events was beyond everyone's expectations. Before the enemy could even react, he was already under control and couldn't help but cry out loud. The people outside the house immediately noticed that something was wrong. The sound of guns being pulled could be heard one after another. Someone immediately wanted to rush in. Tang Zheng grabbed the captive in his hand and blocked the door, while he hid behind the captive. If the people outside wanted to come in, they would have to shoot the captive to death. The captive's scream was particularly ear-piercing in the silent night. The others who were sleeping were immediately awakened. They all got up and looked at the scene in horror. There was a stranger lying on the ground, and there was another person in Tang Zheng's hands. Furthermore, there was a gun. Even an idiot would know what was going on. Those hateful enemies actually refused to let go and chased after them with guns. After experiencing what happened during the day, their ability to adapt quickly improved. Although their faces were pale, they still maintained a trace of calmness. Zhou Yan asked in horror, "Lao San, what happened?" "Everyone, be careful. The enemy is attacking." "Ah, is it that group of people during the day?" Sinosaurus also hurriedly asked. Tang Zheng nodded, "It should be. Don't worry, we have hostages in our hands. They won't dare to do anything to us. After saying that, he leaned close to the captive's ear and asked coldly, "Who are you people?" The captive gritted his teeth and roared, "You won't be able to escape. Our people are all outside. You won't be able to escape even if you have wings. We are just students. We have no enmity with you. Why are you targeting us?" Tang Zheng asked. The captive sneered, "Hee hee, it's because you are students that we are targeting you. If we capture you, we can negotiate with the government." Everyone's hearts trembled. Wang Shiji quickly asked, "Who are you people? Why are you capturing us to negotiate with the government? We are the holy warriors of the Holy Church. Your government has captured many of our warriors. I want to use you to force them to submit and release our warriors." Almost everyone immediately realized the terrorist incident that had happened recently. After the terrorist incident, there were rumors on the internet that the so-called Holy Church was using terrorist acts to force the government to release their people. However, how could the government compromise? Instead, they used thunderous methods and captured some of the so-called Holy Church's warriors. However, no one expected that they would actually come into contact with these terrorists, and even be besieged by them. Sinosaurus patted his chest and righteously said, "Let's rush out and fight them. We absolutely cannot compromise. These people are worse than animals. They specialize in doing heartless things." The others were clearly a little fearful. Students without the strength to truss up a chicken were clearly at a disadvantage when facing this group of desperados. These people were terrorists who killed without batting an eye. If they were caught by them, they would definitely die. Seeing that no one responded, Sinosaurus loudly advised, "This stalemate is not a solution. What if they rush in later?" Wang Shiji shook his head and said, "We still don't know how many people the other side has. If we rush out rashly, wouldn't we be sending ourselves to their doorstep?" The others nodded in agreement. They obviously agreed with Wang Shiji's judgment. Seeing that everyone was hesitating, Tang Zheng immediately shouted, "Everyone, calm down. I will solve this matter." He exerted force in his hand and the captive screamed loudly. The others felt a chill in their hearts. They could completely feel how intense the pain was. Tang Zheng was really ruthless. However, no one criticized him. Instead, they were secretly delighted. The more ruthless Tang Zheng was, the more he could protect everyone's safety. "The people outside listen to me. Your people are in my hands. Retreat. Otherwise, I will immediately kill the two of them." Tang Zheng roared with a murderous aura. The people outside obviously did not expect that their attack would fail. They angrily said, "Immediately release our people. Otherwise, all of you will die." Even if we die, we will drag the two of them down with us," Tang Zheng said fearlessly. "You are students, you are not our match at all. So what if you capture our people? Do you really dare to kill them?" The other party clearly did not believe that Tang Zheng would dare to kill, thinking that he was deliberately bluffing. A murderous light flashed in Tang Zheng's eyes. Yi Dingdang noticed this scene and her heart moved. She already understood his thoughts. Since these people were terrorists, there was no need to show mercy. Ka-cha! The captive in Tang Zheng's hand had one of his arms removed. A blood-curdling scream suddenly sounded and tore through the night sky. The students in the room immediately kept quiet out of fear and looked at Tang Zheng in shock. He actually did it without the slightest hesitation. This was completely beyond their imagination. After all, these people were good students. Yi Dingdang's eyes did not waver in the slightest. She knew that if she forced Tang Zheng into a corner, he would really dare to kill people. However, she was not afraid. Instead, she was faintly excited. She grabbed the other captive who had fallen to the ground and did the same. With a kacha, this person's arm was also removed and hung down. This captive was originally unconscious, but he was woken up by the heart-wrenching pain and subconsciously screamed. The others looked at Yi Dingdang in shock. Was there a mistake? She was actually as decisive as Tang Zheng. There was no trace of mercy in her calm eyes, causing these students to be greatly stimulated. The screams of the two rose and fell, tearing through the night sky, causing the people outside to fly into a rage. What did you do to my people? Didn't you think we wouldn't dare to kill? I'll remove their arms first. If you don't retreat, then I'll directly break their necks. Don't test my patience. That will only make you regret it. Tang Zheng's voice became more and more murderous. Anyway, you people will only harm people if you stay in this world. Why don't I do justice today and get rid of you scum first? I'll count to 3. If you still don't retreat, then I'll do it. After that, Tang Zheng whispered to the people behind him, everyone stay together and avoid the door. Don't expose yourself to the muzzle of the gun. Take care of yourselves and listen to my orders at all times. Several people nodded their heads, as they were all stunned by Tang Zheng's decisiveness in killing. 1, 2. Just as Tang Zheng counted to 2, the people outside immediately shouted, I promise you, we will retreat now, do not hurt our people, otherwise I will make you beg for death but not be able to. Humph, now that your people are in my hands, you still dare to threaten me. You're courting death. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Zheng made his move again. Yi Dingdang was not willing to fall behind. Immediately, the other arms of the two captives were removed. Cold sweat appeared on their foreheads as they screamed incessantly. The sound of footsteps could be heard outside. It was obvious that they were retreating. Tang Zheng did not relax at all. He was still paying 120% attention. Whoosh! Suddenly, an object shot to the door and emitted white smoke. Following the same pattern, another 10 or so objects emitting white smoke flew to the door. A few of them drilled under their feet and shot into the wooden house. Tang Zheng immediately felt his eyes being stimulated, and his tears were about to fall. The others directly coughed, and tears flowed out of their eyes. Tear gas. Tang Zheng's expression suddenly changed. This group of terrorists actually had tear gas. This was troublesome. At the same time, a burst of hurried footsteps sounded. The terrorists attacked. The two groups of people were about to clash. Chapter 266. Tang Zheng anxiously circulated his energy and held his breath. His eyes narrowed into slits as he shouted in a low voice, Ding Dang, protect everyone at the door. I'll go take care of the people outside. All of you stay in the house and don't come out. As soon as he finished speaking, he no longer had that word. The terrorist roared and attacked again. He spread his arms like an eagle spreading its wings and pouncing forward. Tang Zheng punched out with both of his fists, causing a surging wave of air to arrive in the blink of an eye, once again clashing with the opponent's killer. The terrorist retreated again, but Tang Zheng quickly followed up. After more than 10 moves, Tang Zheng's eyes turned cold as he said coldly, I'm not playing with you anymore. The attack suddenly intensified, and a punch landed on the opponent's chest. It was like a muffled thunderclap, the terrorist's eyes bulged, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew backwards and landed at the entrance of the wooden house, completely losing his threat. Other than Yi Dingdang, everyone in the house choked to the point of tears and snot flowing out of their noses. However, when they heard the gunshots outside the house, everyone was scared witless. Even though the taste of the tear gas was very unpleasant, no one dared to rush out of the house. Moreover, with Yi Dingdang, the door god, blocking the way, no one could rush out. Under the faint light of the fire, Do Long covered his mouth and laid on the wall. His face was red and his eyes were moist. Zhou Yan had a bitter face as he bent down and coughed non-stop. Wang Shiji was curled up in the corner, also in a sorry state, but Guo Su and Wang Tong had actually hugged each other at some point in time. Wang Tong was shivering, his delicate and pretty face still had traces of tears. Guo Su's face was also filled with fear, but a sweet smile rippled from the depths of his eyes. Hugging a beauty, he was probably the happiest person on the scene. If it weren't for the terrorists, he and Wang Tong wouldn't have progressed so quickly. The other three were even more embarrassed. One of them was already lying on the ground and crying. He couldn't help but regret agreeing to participate in this operation. If he had stayed in school, he wouldn't have suffered so much. Moreover, his life was in danger. Thinking about the danger to their lives, everyone couldn't help but feel moved. For their sake, Tang Zheng didn't hesitate to risk his life and rush out to fight with the terrorists. This kind of fearless spirit made this group of students, who had never encountered any major setbacks, feel warm in their hearts. There was no doubt that from this moment on, everyone really regarded Tang Zheng as the backbone and the leader of this small group. But when they thought of Tang Zheng, their hearts tightened again. They didn't know what would happen to Tang Zheng in the face of such a powerful enemy. Would he be injured? Would he be captured? If Tang Zheng was captured, then their hopes would be completely dashed. What kind of fate would await them? They could not imagine that this group of people were not ordinary criminals, but terrorists who killed people like scything flax. Everyone wanted to rush out and see what was going on, but no one dared to move when they saw Yi Dingdang, who was like a door god. Yi Dingdang's calmness and ruthlessness had completely exceeded their imagination. Such a peerless beauty was completely not what they had imagined. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. No wonder she favored Tang Zheng so much. Perhaps only an extraordinary person like Tang Zheng was worthy of her. Everyone's imagination ran wild, but the three people in room 502 were the most shocked. Although they had not known Tang Zheng for a long time, Tang Zheng usually chatted happily with everyone, and was no different from other young people. The only difference was that he raised a very cute puppy called Little White. However, the strength that Tang Zheng had displayed this time made them look at him in a different light, and they felt ashamed of their inferiority. It was as if they were from two different worlds than Tang Zheng. Only now did they realize that their roommate of the same age was too mysterious. Yi Dingdang did not have the messy thoughts of the others. Instead, she hid behind the captives and watched the battle outside without blinking. Facing these 8 people, Yi Dingdang knew that she would not be able to walk as leisurely as Tang Zheng, taking care of all the enemies with a raise of her hand. Furthermore, the strength that she displayed when facing the 7th grade body refining warrior made Yi Dingdang feel ashamed of her inferiority. Yi Dingdang was a 9th grade body refining warrior, but her combat experience was definitely not as rich as the 7th grade body refining warrior, let alone compared to Tang Zheng. She couldn't help but frown, clench her teeth, and think to herself, Tang Zheng, you really are a freak, how can you improve so quickly? Seeing that all the terrorists had lost their ability to move, Yi Dingdang heaved a sigh of relief. She escorted the captives out of the hut and called for the others to come out as well. The feeling in the wooden hut was too terrible. Everyone rushed out of the wooden hut like a swarm of bees. The night outside was still pitch black, but the flashlights scattered on the ground illuminated everything outside clearly. Previously, they had only heard the sounds of gunshots and fighting, but they did not know how dangerous it was. However, at this moment, they actually saw that there were 8 other people lying on the ground, and there were even guns scattered on the ground. Their backs couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, and a chill rose from the bottom of their hearts. They really felt as if they had walked through the gates of hell. However, such a tragic battle situation made them feel that it was very unreal. So many armed terrorists were really dealt with by Tang Zheng alone? Was he still human? How could he be so powerful? Their gazes were fixed on Tang Zheng's body. His expression was somewhat cold, but there was no fear. Instead, there was a kind of calmness, as if this bit of danger was insignificant in his eyes. This bit of danger was indeed insignificant to Tang Zheng. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to protect this group of students, he would have launched a counterattack a long time ago. This time, the enemy had delivered themselves to him, and he just happened to take care of them. But now, the key was to find out if these terrorists had any accomplices. If they did, then they had to eliminate the roots and capture everyone in one fell swoop. Otherwise, if these fugitives knew that they had fallen into his hands, they might even take revenge on him. Of course, Tang Zheng wasn't afraid of him, but he had family and people he cared about, so he had no choice but to worry about this. Now that Tang Zheng was doing things, he had already tried his best to strangle all potential dangers in the cradle. Looking at the complicated looks in the eyes of the others, he couldn't help but feel a little helpless. This time, he was forced to display these extraordinary abilities, so he hoped that it wouldn't affect their 4 years of interaction in university. He directly walked in front of the leader and lifted him up. The other party's eyes were dim. Obviously, he didn't feel good after taking Tang Zheng's attack. Tang Zheng pulled off the hood on the other party's head. When he saw the face clearly, he couldn't help but be stunned. Chapter 267. This was not the face of those legendary terrorists. Because those ethnic splitters belonged to different ethnicities, their appearances were very different from those of other places. Look at the latest chapter. However, the face in front of him was clearly similar to that of Tang Zheng and the others. He was not from that race at all. However, for the sake of benefits, the people of today did not exclude the people of other races from joining this terrorist organization. Where are your accomplices? Tang Zheng asked coldly. The terrorist looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated gaze and asked, "How are you so powerful?" "I'm the one asking you, not you. Hurry up and answer my question. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer." Tang Zheng said coldly. The terrorist said indifferently, "You don't have the ability to get information out of me." "Really? Then I'll let you see if I have the ability or not." After Tang Zheng finished speaking, he immediately wanted to break the other party's arm. This time, it was not a simple removal of the arm, but rather a twisting of the arm like a fried dough twist. This kind of injury could not be recovered, and in the future, he would become a cripple. This person's eyes finally revealed a look of fear, but he still did not compromise. Tang Zheng became ruthless and no longer hesitated. He immediately exerted his strength, and immediately, this person cried out miserably. The others felt a chill in their hearts. The captive who had been escorted by Yi Dingdang suddenly shouted, "Stop, don't hurt our company commander, we're not terrorists." Company commander? Everyone was stunned. Tang Zheng also couldn't help but stop. Cold sweat had already appeared on the company commander's forehead. Although his arm was not twisted into a fried dough twist, the feeling was still very uncomfortable. "Since you are not terrorists, then why did you pretend to be terrorists and attack us?" Tang Zheng asked with an ashen face. The others also had indignant looks on their faces. This time, they had escaped death. If they were not terrorists, then why would they attack them? Seeing that his subordinate had already exposed his identity, the company commander no longer hid it and said, "Let me go." "You're so ruthless. Do you really want to cripple me?" "If you don't explain clearly, I don't mind crippling you," Tang Zheng said without any trace of politeness. The company commander smiled bitterly. He had been in the army for more than 10 years and had carried out countless missions. This was the most incredible one. This kid's skill was like a ghost. It was really unbelievable. Moreover, he was decisive and ruthless. He was not like a student at all. He was even more experienced than him. "Alright, I'll tell you. This is a test from the military. We're just pretending to be terrorists to test you." The company commander finally revealed the truth. Everyone was shocked. Everything that had happened since yesterday replayed in their minds like a movie. It was so real, especially the 2 soldiers in the driver's seat. The 2 blooming flowers of blood on their chests were so bloody. "But you killed 2 soldiers yesterday. How could this be a test?" Sinosaurus couldn't help but question. The company commander smiled bitterly and pointed to the 2 unconscious men on the ground. "Take off their hoods and see for yourself." Sinosaurus suspiciously pulled off the hoods of the 2 men. Looking at the 2 familiar faces, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Weren't they the 2 dead drivers? They actually didn't die. The 2 blooming flowers of blood on their chests were definitely fake. Everyone finally believed that this was really a test from the military. It was just that it was too real and deceived everyone. Even Tang Zheng was deceived. He looked at the pistol at the company commander's waist and casually pulled it out. He asked, "Then the bullets in this gun are also fake?" Without waiting for the other party to answer, he pulled the trigger at the company commander's chest. With a bang, the bullet shot out and hit the other party's chest, but it did not penetrate. Everyone was so scared by Tang Zheng's actions that their bodies trembled. Everyone knew that this was a test, so their nerves relaxed. They never expected that Tang Zheng would actually shoot at the company commander without any hesitation. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled the trigger. That decisive and murderous aura made people tremble in fear. The company commander couldn't help but exclaim. It wasn't that he had never been shot before, but it was the first time he was shot at such a close distance without any resistance. When he heard Tang Zheng's question about the bullets, he was just about to answer, but before he could speak, Tang Zheng pulled the trigger without hesitation. It was as if he didn't care about his life at all. He had only seen this kind of resolute attitude in people who had truly experienced countless life and death situations. But how could this student in front of him have experienced countless life and death situations? This was too unbelievable, but the facts told him that this was the truth. It was hard for ordinary people to imagine what Tang Zheng had experienced in the past few months. He really had walked through the gates of hell several times and experienced countless life and death situations. Tang Zheng was expressionless. He let go of the company commander's hand and slapped the gun in his hand. It really is a blank cartridge. The company commander was stunned on the spot. Did he shoot to verify if it was a blank cartridge? What if it wasn't? Then wouldn't he be dead? Damn, you really dared to shoot. Aren't you afraid of killing me? The company commander finally couldn't help but ask loudly. Although it was a blank cartridge, at such a close distance, it still hurt his chest. Tang Zheng's eyes didn't fluctuate at all. That's none of my business. Just now, you shot at me so many times. Didn't you think that you would accidentally hurt me? So I returned the favor with this shot. We're even. In fact, Tang Zheng was a bit of a vengeful person. After all, this time he was played in circles by the other party. He also had a stomach full of anger, so shooting at the other party to scare them was considered revenge. In fact, ever since the other party revealed his identity, he knew that the bullet was definitely a fake. Otherwise, if it was a real bullet, what if he shot so many times and hurt someone? Because of this, he didn't hesitate to shoot. The others obviously didn't see it as clearly as him, so they were frightened by his sudden attack. Even Yi Dingdang couldn't help but tremble. The others looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated gaze. The company commander sighed and said, "The younger generation will surpass us in time. Today, I've broadened my horizons. Don't talk about those useless things. We've been running for so long, and it's almost dawn. We can't possibly stay in the wilderness." Tang Zheng said. "You guys can be considered to have passed the test, so come with us." The company commander regained his seriousness and went to check on the unconscious soldiers. However, he found that there was no way to wake them up. He didn't know what method Tang Zheng used, but in the end, he had no choice but to say to Tang Zheng, "Why aren't they waking up?" Tang Zheng laughed mischievously. How could the people he knocked unconscious wake up so easily? He used a little trick and specifically sealed everyone's meridians. The company commander was only at the 7th grade of the body refining stage, so of course he couldn't undo it. Tang Zheng tapped on everyone's body a few times, and then they woke up. However, when they saw the situation at the scene and the company commander's depressed expression, they immediately realized that the operation this time had failed. Their self-proclaimed elite unit had actually fallen at the hands of a group of university students. If this were to spread out, wouldn't it make people laugh their heads off? Everyone's mood was not high, especially when they looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated gaze. The army had always had the habit of worshipping the strong, and Tang Zheng's strength was a little beyond their imagination, causing them to have no temper. "Let's go, lead the way," Tang Zheng said. The company commander smiled awkwardly and led the way. Tang Zheng's group of 10 walked at the back, as if they were escorting a group of captives. The scene was a little comical. The members of 502 gathered around Tang Zheng. Zhou Yan winked and asked, "OL3, you didn't even blink when you shot just now. You're too amazing." Sinosaurus patted Tang Zheng's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. "OL3, from now on, you are my, Sinosaurus's, idol." Damn, that aura, even that company commander was shocked. I'm sure that at that moment, he definitely felt that the god of death was approaching him, and didn't even think that the gun was empty. Wang Shiji nodded his head seriously. I saw the company commander's body tremble. Sinosaurus laughed out loud. "Boss, your observations are very detailed." Zhou Yan was also filled with admiration as he sighed with emotion. "Fortunately, I agreed to participate in this experiential learning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to see such a soul-stirring scene in school." Sinosaurus patted his shoulder and said, "OL4, so it's right for us to call you together, right? TSK, all of this is mainly because of OL3. Without OL3, all 10 of us would be finished, especially you, OL2. Earlier, you even swore that you would protect us. Hehe, who will protect who now? I told you that this heavy responsibility would fall on OL3's shoulders. Do you think I have a unique vision?" Zhou Yan said in ridicule. Sinosaurus was exposed, so he scratched his head in embarrassment and said, "Didn't I not know about OL3's abilities before? OL3 likes to hide his strength. Now that I know, of course I have to be self-aware. In short, OL3 is our savior this time. Without him, there would be no victory for us." Humph. A dissatisfied snort sounded out. Yi Dingdang looked coldly at the few of them and said, "Without him, I can still make these people fall." Everyone knew that Yi Dingdang's skills were extraordinary, but it was obviously not as dazzling as Tang Tangjing this time. They couldn't help but be skeptical, especially Sinosaurus, who chuckled, "Great beauty Yi, now I finally know why you have such a soft spot for our OL3. Which woman wouldn't like such a good man? Wang Tong, don't you think so? You're one of the 2 girls here." Wang Tong had been holding hands with Guosu the entire time, and had not let go since they left the wooden house. Hearing Sinosaurus's question, she was like a frightened deer that wanted to break free from Guosu's hands, but was firmly held. She blushed and said, "Tang Zheng is very powerful, he is indeed liked by girls." Sinosaurus laughed out loud, "See, I'm right." Zhou Yan rolled his eyes and said, "Second brother, are you blind? Wang Tong and Guosu are holding hands, so of course he likes Guosu. How could it be our OL3? But to be honest, OL3 and Great Beauty Yi are indeed a match made in heaven. A beauty paired with a hero, a perfect match." Sinosaurus looked up to the sky and sighed, "Sigh, it wasn't easy for me to meet a beauty that moved my heart, but she was heartlessly snatched away by OL3. The heavens are unfair." Zhou Yan and Wang Shiji laughed out loud. Yi Dingdang's face flushed red from being teased. She glared fiercely at Sinosaurus and the others and said, "If you continue to gossip, do you believe that I won't pull out your tongues?" Zhou Yan hurriedly said, "We understand, this kind of thing can only be understood and not explained. Don't worry, all the members of 502 will definitely look after OL3 for you and not let other beauties have a chance." Yi Dingdang's eyes widened even more, she was so angry that she glared fiercely at Tang Zheng. However, when she found that he acted as if nothing had happened, she became even angrier. She cursed in her heart, "Humph, do you think that I will fulfill your wish just because you let a few people say a few words? Dream on." Before long, the 20 people got into a few cars that had already been parked by the side of the road and headed straight into the depths of the mountain. When the sky gradually brightened, they finally arrived at a secret military base in the depths of the mountains. From afar, they could see groups of soldiers training in the morning light. However, Tang Zheng noticed a person sitting quietly in a corner. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he had the urge to run away. Chapter 268. In this world, there were definitely not many people who could make Tang Zheng have the urge to run away, but the person sitting in the distance was definitely one of them. Please add. Tang Zheng felt bitter. Why did he have to come here, to participate in this military training? He did not expect that he would be like a sheep in a tiger's den. What should he do now? He was in a dilemma. Seeing that Yi Dingdang's expression was the same as usual, it was obvious that he did not notice this person, so he touched her arm. Yi Dingdang glared at him. What are you doing? Tang Zheng gave her a look, causing Yi Dingdang's heart to tremble. What was he up to again? She immediately followed his gaze and looked over. She immediately opened her mouth wide and almost cried out in alarm. Luckily, Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick as he covered her mouth, but this position was too ambiguous. The others all had playful looks on their faces as they looked at the two of them with a smile that was not a smile. It was as if they were saying that there was nothing between the two of them just now. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang did not have the leisure to talk about love. Yi Dingdang's heart was filled with shock. She whimpered twice, indicating for Tang Zheng to let go. Tang Zheng resentfully let go of his hand, and when their eyes met, Yi Dingdang moved closer to his ear and asked softly, "How could it be her?" "Then what should we do?" "Your father said that there was no such thing as a soft-hearted person in her life." While meditating, the person seemed to have sensed something and suddenly opened her eyes. She turned her head and looked in Tang Zheng's direction. Her beautiful but cold face and the murderous aura between her eyebrows made one's heart tighten uncontrollably. Marshal. This person was actually the martial sex marshal, the one who forced Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang into a desperate situation. If not for summoning the ghost general, the two of them would have already lost their lives to her. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang immediately turned their heads and did not look at Marshal. Doubt flashed across Marshal's eyes, then he slowly closed his eyes and remained motionless, bathing in the sunlight like a boulder. "Why is she here?" Yi Dingdang continued to ask in a low voice. Tang Zheng shook his head. "How would I know? Let's wait and see. Since she has lost her memories, we should be safe for the time being. We'll try our best to take a detour and avoid contact with her. After 10 days, we'll leave as soon as possible." Yi Dingdang had no choice but to do so. Tang Zheng started to ponder. The martial organization seemed to have connections with the military, which was something he did not expect. Logically speaking, these three big organizations were very mysterious, and would not easily reveal themselves to outsiders, but this time they were actually involved in the military. Could it be that there was a deeper meaning behind this? For a moment, he could not figure it out. The group of people were brought to the dormitory area. The 8 boys were assigned to one room, while the 2 girls lived next door. After surviving a calamity, they finally returned to a civilized society. The fear in everyone's hearts gradually dissipated as they began to chatter and discuss. Everything in the army was extremely new to them. Looking at the strong and steel-like soldiers and hearing the slogans one after another, their blood began to boil. Why don't men take Wugo and collect the 50 provinces of Guanshan? Please temporarily go up Ling Yan, like a scholar marquis of 10,000 households. It was the dream of many young people for men to serve their country. This time, they had the chance to experience something that ordinary people would not be able to experience. Their blood was boiling, and they wished that they could go on the battlefield and kill the enemy right now. Zhou Yan patted Sinosaurus, who had been looking out of the window the entire time, and said, "Second brother, look at his physique, and then look at yourself. Do you feel the difference?" Sinosaurus was nearly 1.9 meters tall. His body was strong, and his muscles were strong. He was indeed outstanding. However, compared to the elites of the army outside, he did not have much of an advantage. The key was that the sonorous and powerful aura of iron and blood emitted by these soldiers was something that Sinosaurus could not compare to. Hearing Zhou Yan's teasing, he did not get angry. Instead, he sighed with emotion, I used to be a frog at the bottom of a well. This time, coming to Yenching University was the right choice. Not only did I meet a fierce person like third brother, but I also saw this iron and blood army. Only then did I understand that there is always someone better than me. When everyone heard this, they could not help but sigh with emotion. In the past, they were all favored by the heavens. After experiencing this incident, they finally understood that favored by the heavens were not omnipotent. In the face of the most primitive threat of martial arts, favored by the heavens were like paper that could be broken with a single poke. Seeing that everyone's morale was low, Tang Zheng said in a clear voice, everyone, don't be discouraged. They have all undergone countless training and have been tempered by the flames of war to be able to reach this level. As long as we work hard, it's not impossible for us to reach this level. A real man, the key is to have courage. Then, all difficulties and obstacles will be trampled under our feet, and become a staircase for us to move forward, not a stumbling block. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. They looked eagerly at Tang Zheng and secretly nodded. Tang Zheng's words were reasonable. They were all young people, and they were all proud and arrogant people. How could they be intimidated by such a small force? Well said. The door to the dormitory was pushed open, and a vigorous voice sounded out. Everyone trembled, and quickly turned their heads to look, only to see Kai Guibin walking in with the company commander. Kai Guibin's face was excited, the person who had praised him just now was him. He glanced at the 8 people, and then fixed his eyes on Tang Zheng. This young man not only had excellent skills and courage, but also had extraordinary knowledge. It really made his eyes light up, and his understanding of Tang Zheng increased by another level. Seeing Kai Guibin, everyone's expression was a little excited, and they quickly saluted according to the previous rules. Since Kai Guibin had said that during this period of time, they would be soldiers, then they would try their best to lean in the direction of soldiers. Kai Guibin solemnly returned the salute, and said sonorously, Tang Zheng's words are very correct. Difficulties and obstacles are not so terrible. What is terrible is the cowardice in one's heart. As long as one's heart is strong, then everything outside is insignificant, and it will become one's motivation to move forward. Moreover, you are the best of the best among the students in the country. I believe that as long as you concentrate on training, you will be more outstanding than the soldiers under my command. Hearing these words, everyone could not help but feel their blood boil. Even Tang Zheng was a little infected, and looked at Kai Guibin with a burning gaze. Their eyes met, and there was no lack of certainty in Kai Guibin's eyes as he said, I am very satisfied with your performance this time, and it even exceeded my expectations. This is the company commander you will be training for the next 10 days, Su Hongguo. This time, you have given him a big greeting gift. Tang Zheng, I heard that you almost crippled him. Tang Zheng said embarrassedly, it's a misunderstanding, we thought of him as a terrorist. Hee, is that so? Kai Guibin's eyes were meaningful. When he heard the report that Tang Zheng knew Su Hongguo's identity and still shot at him, he thought for a moment and understood Tang Zheng's intentions. This shot was to make Su Hongguo suffer. Thinking about how his insufferably arrogant company commander Su had suffered such a big loss at the hands of a university student, he was not angry, but rather a little happy. The army needed fresh blood like Tang Zheng to stimulate it. Only then could it effectively promote the development and growth of the army in the long run. Kai Guibin could not help but sigh at how unconstrained the thoughts of the higher-ups were. They actually thought of recruiting these university students who did not seem to have any fighting strength. In fact, many people were waiting to see a joke. Then, this time, he would bring this group of people out and let those who wanted to see a joke know who was the real joke. The person involved, Su Hongguo, did not feel much frustration from being defeated. Instead, he said in a deep voice, you brats made me suffer a big loss. Don't worry, I will definitely not underestimate you in the future. On the contrary, I will train you fiercely. Although the time is short, I will let you understand the meaning of being a soldier. Especially you, Tang Zheng. I will keep an eye on you. Don't let me catch you, or else I will take revenge. Pfft. When these words came out, some people could not help but laugh. Su Hongwoo's words were not hostile, but expressed a kind of recognition and importance. There was no doubt that this kind of emotion in the army was a normal expression, and it was a kind of high respect. Tang Zheng smiled and said in a relaxed manner, Company Commander Su is welcome to give advice at any time. Kai Guibin was very satisfied with this kind of atmosphere. He nodded and said, Today, you guys can rest for a day and familiarize yourself with the environment here. But remember, this is a military base. You are not allowed to run around. Otherwise, if you violate the rules, I will not show mercy. Yes. Everyone answered sonorously. At this moment, a burst of noise came from outside the door. Kai Guibin smiled and said, Your other classmates are also here. Everyone already knew that the 20 people were divided into 2 teams, and the other team was also being tested, but they did not know the results. Kai Guibin and Su Hongwu walked out of the dormitory. Tang Zheng and the others immediately chased after them to see what was going on. They found that the people in the corridor were indeed their schoolmates. This group of people were in a much more miserable state than Tang Zheng and the others. Some of them still had blood on their bodies, but it was unknown if it was their own or someone else's. The person in the lead was Takashi. Beside him stood Ding Xiaowan. The two of them were not in such a sorry state. Takashi did not hide the arrogance on his face. Ding Xiaowan was like a little bird by his side, looking at him from time to time with unconcealable admiration. Takashi's gaze swept over, and coincidentally landed on Tang Zheng's body. His pupils suddenly constricted, and then returned to normal, and then he saluted Kai Guibin. Kai Guibin returned the greeting, and said seriously, You guys have also passed the test this time, but 3 of you are injured. This can be considered to be commendable. Next, you will rest for a day, but I will give you 2 teams a mission, and that is to choose your own class leader. The class leader will be your leader in the future, and this is the most important thing. The 2 teams were 2 classes, and the leader was the first thing to be confirmed. The people of the 2 teams couldn't help but look at Tang Zheng and Takashi. Without a doubt, the 2 class leaders were them. Not long after, Zhou Yan went out and came back, and said to Tang Zheng, OL3, I have already figured out the situation of Class 2, and this time, they have also undergone a similar test as us. However, that Takashi was only concerned with running away at the beginning, which caused 3 people to be injured, but this person is also a fierce person, and in the end, he actually subdued the disguised terrorist. Just like you, he was all alone. Strange, why are there so many fierce people in our grade? Tang Zheng was slightly shocked. Takashi was just a guy who knew a little bit of martial arts in the past, and was not even a warrior. How could he single-handedly defeat so many soldiers this time? He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. Combined with Takashi's abnormal behavior in the past few months, Tang Zheng could not help but suspect that Takashi had also had a fortuitous encounter like him. Chapter 269. Tang Zheng could not figure out whether or not Takashi had a fortuitous encounter. Right now, the key was to follow the prescribed order and try to complete this military training as much as possible. Pose, in the middle of the night, everyone was still sleeping soundly. Suddenly, a loud bugle sounded in everyone's ears, and then their dormitory door was kicked open. Su Hongwu stood at the door and shouted at the top of his lungs, Get up, emergency assembly. Yesterday, everyone was already mentally and physically exhausted, and it was not easy for them to fall asleep. Not long after, they were woken up, and many of them were in a daze. I'll give you 3 minutes. If you're late, you don't have to eat breakfast. Su Hongwu said loudly. Schwa. Everyone seemed to have a spring under their buttocks. Although they were extremely unwilling, they still struggled to sit up. Yesterday, they had all discussed for a long time. The following training would definitely be very difficult. If they did not eat breakfast, they did not know if they could last the entire morning. Therefore, in order to have enough strength, everyone quickly got up and put on their clothes. After tidying up their blankets, they quickly rushed out of the dormitory and ran to the field to gather. Fortunately, they were not late. Many people were secretly happy, but some people were not happy at all. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang felt a chill in their hearts as they vigilantly stared at the figure standing opposite them. Wu stood tall like a javelin, looking at everyone expressionlessly. Beside him stood Kai Guibin, Su Hongguo, and the company commander of Class 2. Almost all the students could not help but take a few more glances at Wu. There was nothing they could do. Not only was she beautiful, she was also tall and straight. Yi Dingdang was 1.7 meters tall, which was considered outstanding among the girls, but Wu was actually 1.8 meters tall, taller than many of the boys. Furthermore, his aura was too strong, causing people to be intimidated. Everyone still had the thought of pursuing Yi Dingdang, but they did not dare to have such thoughts towards Wu. Her unapproachable aura made people's hearts pound involuntarily as they tried to guess who this person was. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang were also guessing what Wu was up to in the middle of the night. The two of them were originally prepared to keep a respectful distance from Wu, but now they were face to face. Kai Guibin looked at the crowd and said, "Your formal training in the army has already started the moment you stepped into this military base. I told you in the morning that you could rest for a day, but now I've called all of you to gather in the middle of the night. Look at how sleepy some of you are. Are you very dissatisfied with me? You think I'm going back on my word?" No one dared to say anything, but many people were unconvinced in their hearts. Didn't they say that they would rest for a day? Instead, they were tormenting people in the middle of the night. Kai Guibin sneered, "Even if you don't say it, I know what you're thinking. However, I would like to ask if anyone has ever heard of the saying, 'All is fair in war.' All is fair in war." Of course, everyone had heard of this saying. You are now soldiers, so you have to think from the perspective of a soldier. Let me ask you, on the battlefield, can you trust the words of the enemy? Seeing that everyone nodded, Kai Guibin continued, "Similarly, my words can't be entirely true. Truth and falsehood, this was the norm on the battlefield. To be a qualified warrior, you have to distinguish between the truth and falsehood of these words." The unwillingness in everyone's hearts immediately subsided. Kai Guibin was very satisfied with everyone's reaction and continued, "You will stay in the army for 15 days, and during these 15 days, other than me and your respective company commanders, there is another person you must know, and that is her, your instructor Wu." Kai Guibin pointed at the ice-cold Wu, and everyone immediately looked at her. She still did not say a word, as if she did not care about these pairs of burning eyes. Everyone guessed that this person looked beautiful, but what ability did he have to be everyone's instructor? Looking at everyone's complicated expressions, Kai Guibin said, "Everyone, let's welcome Instructor Wu's speech." The applause was very warm. Wu took a step forward, looked around, and said, "I know that everyone does not believe that I have the ability to be your instructor. I actually do not want to prove this matter, but I see that there are people who disdain to raise their heads to look at me, so I changed my mind. You, the one with your head down, step out." Everyone anxiously searched for the fellow with his head lowered in the crowd. Tang Zheng was immediately locked onto. In order to avoid Wu's line of sight, he inadvertently lowered his head, and compared to the others who were staring at Wu with burning eyes, it was too eye-catching. Tang Zheng suddenly woke up, he raised his head and looked at the gazes, as well as Wu's gaze that was as sharp as a blade, and could not help but curse inwardly. His actions were too abnormal, and he had been noticed instead. However, his calmness was extraordinary, so he did not panic. Instead, he calmly looked at Wu. "It's you. Step out." Wu pointed at Tang Zheng and said. Tang Zheng helplessly stepped out of the line, and was 3 or 4 steps away from Wu. Their eyes met, and Wu's sharp gaze had already sized up Tang Zheng from head to toe, and he could not help but frown. Most people would involuntarily avoid her gaze, but Tang Zheng was like an ancient well, without the slightest ripple. She was surprised and asked, you didn't look at me, so you don't believe me at all, right? Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. Although Wu was an expert, he still had the stubbornness and irrationality of a woman. I didn't look at you and didn't believe you. Tang Zheng immediately shook his head. No, I believe you. He believed more than anyone else that with Wu's strength, he was more than enough to be their instructor. You can't fool me with such lies. I like to use practical actions to convince others. For example, this. After Wu finished speaking, she made her move. Her speed was not fast, but it was enough for everyone to clearly see the trajectory of her attack. Of course, Tang Zheng also saw it clearly. Wu was not arrogant, and the power transmitted from this seemingly ordinary move made his heart stifle. Tang Zheng did not surrender without a fight. That would be too abnormal, so he launched a counterattack and punched out. Bang! Tang Zheng was sent flying, but while he was in midair, he abruptly stopped his retreating momentum and once again pounced forward, both of his hands overlapping. Wu did not even look. With a flash of his feet, he arrived below Tang Zheng. He soared into the air and chopped out with his hand. This move was called the Roaring Flame Blade. Back then, he had fought with Feng Xinyang's Wind Fire Blade for dozens of rounds. Tang Zheng felt a blazing wave of air sweeping out from her palm. It was as if a raging flame was attached to her white palm. Tang Zheng's hand could also turn into a flame-like hand blade, but that was a second-grade true fire. Once exposed, his identity as a cultivator would be made public. Therefore, he naturally could not take this move head-on. Seeing that Wu's roaring flame blade was already in front of him and he was in the air, he immediately punched out with both fists and collided with the roaring flame blade. A blazing wave of air made him unable to open his eyes. Bang! Tang Zheng flew backwards and landed heavily on the ground. Wu was a first-grade pre-celestial stage martial artist. Compared to Tang Zheng, who was at the fourth grade of the foundation establishment stage, he had a huge advantage. Even if Tang Zheng was at his peak, it would be impossible for him to defeat Wu, so he purposely lowered his cultivation again and again, only fixing himself to be a strong and powerful barbarian. His moves were not that exquisite. It was normal for him to take Wu's attack, but the feeling was not good. He gritted his teeth and stood up from the ground, saying, I'm not your match. I admit defeat. Wu still wanted to attack. She had always felt that Tang Zheng's counterattack was holding back, but since the opponent had already admitted defeat, she could not attack in front of so many people. When the others saw that Tang Zheng, who was able to fight against 10 people, was defeated so easily, they could not help but be dumbstruck. Their eyes were filled with reverence as they looked at Wu. She's a woman, and she looks to be in her 20s. How can she be so strong? It seems like Captain is right. She is indeed qualified to be everyone's instructor. Immediately, no one had the slightest objection. Tang Zheng returned to the team expressionlessly. He was neither happy nor sad, but he was even more vigilant. This marshal was too shrewd. If he was not careful, she would see through his flaws. He originally wanted to be more ordinary, but he did not expect to be stared at by her the moment they met, causing him to have a headache. Kai Guibin was also slightly surprised. This woman was actually so powerful. This instructor Wu was sent down by the head of the upper echelons. He did not have much contact with her. This was the first time he saw her take action. After all, Kai Guibin was a second-grade post-celestial stage martial artist. His eyes were still very sharp. Not only did he sense the internal energy fluctuations in Wu Wu's body, but from her series of attacks just now, he could already tell that she was an expert. Facing such an expert, Tang Zheng's defeat was understandable. After all, if Tang Zheng was not defeated by such an expert, wouldn't that mean that he was already ridiculously powerful? In Kai Guibin's eyes, Tang Zheng was not a martial artist, but a person with rich combat experience and good martial arts. With such a person's guidance, he could become a true martial artist. If he knew that Tang Zheng's actual fighting strength had already surpassed his, Kai Guibin would probably value Tang Zheng even more. Of course, Tang Zheng would not allow his true level to be exposed, so he tried his best to become mediocre in the crowd. Right now, he was a little regretful that his performance was so different. He should have kept a low profile. As a result, in the next few days of training, whether it was cross-country running, various physical training, or military boxing, his results were all average. He was only slightly better than the others, and his performance was not too eye-catching. On the other hand, Yi Dingdang and Takashi's performances were very eye-catching. No matter what the subjects were, the two of them were clearly much better than the others, attracting the attention of the others. However, Tang Zheng always felt that the way Wu Wu looked at him was a little strange, but he had always been careful and did not let the other party get a hold of him. Time flew by, and the 10 days of training had completely ended. Many people had been reborn, and their faces were obviously dark. Even the girls were no exception. However, the resolute expression on everyone's faces and physique had indeed undergone a great change. However, what was waiting for everyone after the training ended? They did not know until Kai Guibin announced it. Only then did they know that this series of training was actually for such an unimaginable mission. Chapter 270. When they heard about this mission, they realized that compared to the mission, these days of tough training were too easy. At least there was no danger to their lives. This mission was truly life-threatening, so it shouldn't have been carried out by a group of students. However, since the order had been given, it was enough to show how much hope the military had placed on this group of students. After Kai Guibin announced the order, he was also a little hesitant. When he first heard about this mission, he also felt that they shouldn't be allowed to carry it out, but since the chief insisted on doing so, he had no choice. This mission was to have these 20 people find the terrorists' base camp. It turned out that the terrorists who had escaped into this mountain range had long been captured by the military. However, the terrorists were very stubborn and only gave them a rough location. Then, when the military wasn't paying attention, they actually committed suicide. During this period of time, the military had been sending people to search that area. However, there weren't many clues. However, the chief suddenly thought of having these 20 university students disguise themselves as backpackers and then go to that area to investigate. In today's society, the new group of backpackers was very large, and many of them had a very strong adventurous spirit. There was no place they didn't dare to go, and their footprints were all over the world. Letting this group of university students pretend to be backpackers would have a very good concealment effect. Moreover, they didn't have too many traces of the military and police on them, so they wouldn't arouse suspicion. In fact, this mission was more suitable to be given to national agents, but this was also an opportunity to implement one of the ideas proposed by the chief. Thus, Tang Zheng and the others became the best candidates for the mission. Everyone looked at each other. Since it was an order, they had to carry it out. After listening to the detailed arrangements, the two classes split into two groups and headed straight for the sensitive area. This sensitive area was on the western border of the country. It had always been a place of frequent disputes, but it was also a place that many tourist explorers were fond of. Every year, many backpackers would come here to travel. Therefore, a small team of 10 people was not that conspicuous. When Tang Zheng and the others took the military plane and drove over the mountains to this small border city, everyone's nerves couldn't help but tense up. Many of them knew how to drive, and Tang Zheng had also used these 10 days to learn how to drive, so it was easy for them to drive themselves. However, in this small border town, most of the faces were of another race, so it was inevitable that they would feel a little nervous. Now, because of the terrorist attacks, the mainlanders' expressions changed at the mention of the tiger, and they had a natural fear of these unique faces. In fact, most of the people in this race were good people. The splitters were just a small group of rats after all. The mission of Tang Zheng and the others was to find these black sheep and return justice to the world. The two cars stopped in front of the youth hostel. This was the favorite place for backpackers to stay. The price was cheap, and there was a group of cultured youths chatting about anything under the sun. Most importantly, many people could use this opportunity to pick up girls and look for free romantic encounters. In short, this was a place where fish and dragons were mixed together, and it was also the place where the news was the most up-to-date. Zhou Yan had traveled with other backpackers several times before, so he was very experienced. After going through the check-in procedures, the few of them split up in 2s and 3s and walked into the streets and alleys, not attracting any attention. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang disguised themselves as a couple as they walked through the streets and alleys. Tang Zheng held a single-lens reflex camera and took 2 photos from time to time. Tang Zheng, where do you think the terrorists' base is? Yi Dingdang asked in a low voice without batting an eyelid. Tang Zheng smiled faintly, and said, according to the intelligence, it is in this small city, but there are tens of thousands of families here, how can it be so easy to find? Didn't that dead terrorist say a location? Let's go over there first. That's the only way. Do you think Takashi's team will find the terrorists' lair before us? Yi Dingdang asked curiously. How would I know? Takashi is becoming more and more mysterious. I really can't figure him out. Yi Dingdang also frowned. He and Takashi had been in the same class since the first year of high school, so it could be said that he knew his background very well. However, this time, he realized that Takashi seemed to have changed into a completely different person, which made her feel that it was inconceivable. However, with a freak like Tang Zheng in front of her, it seemed that Takashi's change was not too difficult to accept, so she curled her lips and said, "Don't just talk about others, aren't you becoming more and more mysterious?" Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. How am I mysterious? I'm just worried that Takashi will harm you. That brat originally had Sima Zhao's heart for you, and everyone knows that. Now that he has become stronger, he might continue to attack you. Yi Dingdang jokingly said, What, are you jealous of him? You don't have to say, Takashi is actually not bad, he studies well, and his skills are not bad either. You saw this training, his various indicators have all surpassed yours. Yeah, who knows, maybe one day he'll confess to you. How good would it be to confess? Maybe I'll agree. Yi Dingdang glanced at him from the corner of his eyes, and said something that he did not mean. Although Gao Daji's performance was outstanding, Yi Dingdang, who had been his classmate for 3 years, did not have the slightest good impression of Gao Daji. The contrast between before and after was too great, causing her to have a stomach full of questions. Seeing her secretly happy expression, Tang Zheng could not help but strike a blow. Don't be so happy, you don't have that chance. Didn't you see that Ding Xiaowan is very close to him? I heard that Ding Xiaowan is the top scorer in our province. Yes, his results are better than yours, and his personality is gentler than yours, so you don't have a chance. Tang Zheng struck back. Tang Zheng, I think it's because you saw that the little girl didn't even spare you a glance and instead had a crush on Gao Daji, so you're jealous. Yi Dingdang jokingly said. Tang Zheng curled his lips, I'm jealous. Are you kidding me? I have a girlfriend. Humph, men are all playful. They eat from the bowl and look at the pot, especially you. Yi Dingdang thought about the bet and could not help but despise Tang Zheng's sinister intentions. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes, what does this have to do with me? Before he could refute, his pupils suddenly constricted, and he stared intently at the woman in front of him. Yi Dingdang's expression changed slightly, he fiercely pulled Tang Zheng's arm, and said, Hey, you still have the nerve to say that you're not that kind of man, look at your current appearance, you look like a pervert. Please, we're pretending to be a couple, I'll be jealous if you act like this. As he spoke, he stretched out his hands to block in front of Tang Zheng, just like an ordinary couple quarreling, directly blocking his line of sight, and said, You're not allowed to look at other women, why are your thoughts so dirty? I'm right in front of you, and you're actually looking at other women in front of me. Yi Dingdang's heart was filled with anger, and a trace of jealousy emerged. Am I not good looking? She was much prettier than the woman from before. He actually didn't look at her but looked at that woman instead. This was simply preposterous. Yi Dingdang couldn't help but feel that his dignity had been insulted. Tang Zheng frowned, and pulled Yi Dingdang away, only to discover that the woman's figure had already disappeared. He didn't know if she had heard their movements and ran away. "You're still looking, I really want to dig out your eyeballs." Yi Dingdang was unable to restrain his anger. Tang Zheng was flustered and exasperated, and roared in a low voice, "Yi Dingdang, what's wrong with you? I think you're the one who's crazy. No, it's your beastly nature that's blinded your eyes by desire. We're carrying out a mission, and it's still broad daylight, yet you have designs on a strange woman. Are you still human?" Yi Dingdang indignantly complained, thinking to himself, why didn't he realize that he was such a beast before? No. He had discovered it before, but he wasn't as brazen as he was now. Of course, Tang Zheng wasn't beastly, but he saw that the shape of the bulge in the woman's clothes was very similar to a gun. The person who carried a gun in this place was definitely not an ordinary person. It was very likely that he was a terrorist. He was originally looking for a needle in a haystack. How could he let go of such a suspected terrorist after so much difficulty? Just as he was about to quietly follow them, he was interrupted by Yi Dingdang, allowing the other party to slip away from under his nose. He was so angry that he met Yi Dingdang's eyes. Staring at each other, he lectured in a low voice, "Yi Dingdang, you know that we're carrying out a mission, so can you not be so unreasonable? Who do you think the woman I saw just now was? Didn't you notice the strangeness of her body?" Yi Dingdang curled his lips and said, "Tisk, how can you be so righteous? You stared at her body and said something strange. I think it's just an excuse." Tang Zheng's hands fixed her arms like a vice, making her unable to move, and said, "Yi Dingdang, if you continue to cause trouble, then I won't bring you out next time. I won't bring anyone else to ruin my good fortune." "What do you mean?" Yi Dingdang rarely saw Tang Zheng so serious. "I'm saying that the woman just now might have a gun on her body," Tang Zheng said while gnashing his teeth. This troublemaker, he really didn't understand the situation. Women were ruining things. Yi Dingdang's eyes suddenly widened as she said in surprise, "Really? Of course it's true. Think about it, what kind of person would a woman carry a gun in this place be? Humph, this is all because of your unreasonable pestering, causing us to lose such an important clue," Tang Zheng said in a flustered and exasperated manner. Yi Dingdang's imposing manner suddenly weakened. She pouted and said, "I didn't do it on purpose. Who told you to stare at others with such lecherous eyes? It would be strange if I didn't treat you as a pervert." Tang Zheng was too lazy to explain, so he could only continue to search. However, after searching for a while, he did not see the woman's figure again, and when he went to the place provided by the dead terrorist, he did not find any other suspicious people. The two of them gradually walked to the center of the city. Yi Dingdang pointed to a shopping mall and said, "Let's go in there and sit for a while. I'm tired and thirsty." The two of them had been searching for a long time, so they were indeed a little tired. Tang Zheng nodded, and the two of them walked into the shopping mall, towards a cold drink shop. Suddenly, Yi Dingdang grabbed Tang Zheng's arm and exclaimed in a low voice, "Look, over there." Chapter 271. What are you thinking again? Yi Dingdang clenched his teeth and said, "You're the one who's crazy. Look at who that woman is." Tang Zheng turned his head to look. Damn, he had worn out his iron shoes to look for her, but it was actually the woman who had disappeared without a trace. At this moment, her hand had already reached to her waist and pulled open the corner of her clothes. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. Gun, there really was a gun on her waist. She had already pulled out the gun, aimed it at a person in front of her and pulled the trigger. The muffled sound of the gunshot did not attract much attention in the noisy shopping mall. After she fired the gun, she did not panic in the slightest. Instead, she calmly pointed the gun at another person and pulled the trigger. Bang, 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 the sound of gunshots rang out, and a few people immediately fell into a pool of blood. Yi Dingdang was dumbstruck. This woman was actually a terrorist. If she had not stopped Tang Zheng just now, all of this would not have happened, these people would not have fallen into a pool of blood. She fell into a deep state of self-blame. Looking at the pool of blood, her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Tang Zheng was not as sentimental as her. When the terrorists opened fire, it was already too late for him to stop them. When the gunshot rang out, he moved. He was still about 10 meters away from the terrorist, so when he rushed in front of her, she had already fired 5 shots. In such a dense crowd, there was no need for accurate marksmanship. Even a 3-year-old child could hit someone. Tang Zheng did not have the mood to pay attention to the 5 people lying in a pool of blood, and snatched the pistol from the terrorist. She obviously did not expect that someone would dare to stop her, and was stunned for a moment, but she was not afraid. Instead, she revealed a sinister expression and shouted, "All of you, die." The handbag in his other hand was thrown into the air. Tang Zheng immediately saw a few thin red and green wires from the gap in the handbag that had not been completely pulled open. Without a doubt, there was a bomb inside. Tang Zheng felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over him. He felt a chill in his heart. This group of people was too crazy. In the past, they used knives to chop him. Now, they had upgraded to guns. Finally, they even used bombs. The lethality of a bomb explosion was much greater than that of a bullet. It was unknown how many people would be killed or injured in such a dense crowd. This would definitely become a terrifying incident that would shock the entire country. I can't let the bomb explode here. Tang Zheng had been taught by his grandfather to be a good person since he was young. Ever since he became a cultivator, although he had killed many enemies, there was still a trace of kindness in his heart. At this moment, it completely erupted. He wanted to do his best to protect these people. So, he had no time to deal with this vicious woman. He simply picked her up and threw her in the direction of Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang was already running over. Her reaction was half a beat slower than Tang Zheng's, but she still rushed over to stop him without hesitation. When she saw the woman flying towards her, she reacted quickly and immediately caught her. As soon as the woman landed on the ground, she rushed out, but was firmly held back by Yi Dingdang. She struggled with all her might, but how could she be a match for Yi Dingdang? Yi Dingdang slashed her carotid artery with her palm and she immediately fainted. When the others saw the bloody scene, they screamed in fear and rushed towards the entrance of the shopping mall like a flood. Yi Dingdang was also pushed out of the door by the crowd. However, she kept holding on to the terrorist tightly and was not scattered. She was tall like a swan. She stretched out her long neck and looked in the direction of Tang Zheng. She saw Tang Zheng soar into the air like a rock, spreading its wings and rushing towards the handbag. Yi Dingdang instantly understood what was in the bag and her face turned pale. Bomb! Tang Zheng actually went to catch the bomb without any fear of death. At this moment, his image was incomparably glorious and tall, completely overlapping with the image of the hero in her heart. His body seemed to be emitting a dazzling light that made it hard for people to open their eyes. But her heart immediately jumped to her throat. If the bomb exploded, what would happen to Tang Zheng? Before she could think clearly about this problem, Tang Zheng had already grabbed the bag and clearly saw the detonator inside. His heart couldn't help but tremble, but his hands didn't tremble at all. Instead, they were even steadier than usual as his mind raced. He wasn't proficient in bombs, and there were definitely no bomb disposal experts here. This bomb would definitely explode, and there were so many people in the mall. What should he do? He didn't know how much time was left, so he could only go all out. He glanced at the entrance of the mall and saw that many people had already rushed out. He jumped and stepped on a person's shoulder as if he was walking on flat ground. With the help of many people's shoulders, he quickly rushed out of the mall. Seeing this scene, the crowd erupted into earth-shattering screams and many people cursed. But time was of the essence, and Tang Zheng couldn't care less. This was the only way he could think of, and that was to take the bomb away from here as soon as possible. Finally, he rushed out of the mall. The crowd had already scattered and fled. Tang Zheng saw the huge fountain not far away at a glance. He quickly rushed over and shouted, "Bomb, get down! Bomb, get down!" The people around him were scared silly. Looking at the handbag in his hand, they panicked and fell to the ground. Some people quickly fled to an open space. Whoosh! Tang Zheng threw the handbag from afar, drawing an arc, and the handbag flew into the fountain pool that was spraying water high into the air. The fountain was very big. The people around it had either fled in all directions or were lying on the ground, clinging to the ground. Tang Zheng was also lying on the ground, holding his head with both hands, staring intently at the movement in the fountain. Boom! With an explosion, a huge water column soared into the sky. Countless water droplets shot in all directions, mixed with more than 100 steel balls, shattering the billboards on the roadside. Many trees were also shot, riddled with holes. If Tang Zheng hadn't thrown the bomb into the water, one could imagine how terrifying the explosion would be in the crowded mall. There would probably be hundreds of casualties. Tang Zheng had saved hundreds of people in a single thought. If Tang Dehai knew, he would definitely be very happy. Tang Zheng wasn't happy at all. Instead, he was angry. His anger almost ignited him. This group of terrorists was too crazy. They actually wanted to kill so many innocent people for no reason. Not a single one of these terrorists could be left alive. He climbed to his feet, but the screams were still ringing in his ears. Many of the people lying on the ground did not dare to get up. They were shivering in fear. This scene made the people of the city feel a hellish fear. Tang Zheng immediately saw Yi Dingdang and the terrorist near the entrance of the shopping mall. Tang Zheng quickly rushed over, took the terrorist and said, "Let's leave this place quickly." "Aren't we waiting for the police?" "No need, once the police come, we won't be able to ask her any questions, and it will be easy for our identities to be exposed. Since we've captured this person alive, we definitely can't let the clues end in our hands," Tang Zheng said gloomily. Yi Dingdang looked at him with a complicated expression. His heroic actions just now had saved so many people, he was really too amazing. She did not refute, but obediently nodded, "All right, we can't go back to the youth hostel, there are too many people there, the moment we appear, we will be exposed, we have to go to a hidden place." The two of them were not weak in martial arts. Carrying the terrorist, they moved as if they were flying, and before the others could react, they had already left the scene. Not long later, an ear-piercing alarm sounded, and many police cars rushed to the scene. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang quickly ran towards an abandoned courtyard that they had passed by earlier, but on the way, they heard a series of gunshots and 2 explosions, which meant that the terrorists had planned more than one terrorist attack. Damn it! Tang Zheng's face was ashen. Although he had stopped them, he was not an immortal in the end, so he could not calculate that the terrorists had other actions. Without a doubt, the other 2 terrorist attacks would definitely cause a lot of casualties. He had no way to stop all of this, but he had a way to prevent similar things from happening in the future. However, the stepping stone for all of this would fall on the terrorist in his hands. Yi Dingdang's eyes were red. As she ran, she said guiltily, "Tang Zheng, I'm sorry. If I didn't cause trouble for no reason, none of this would have happened. It's none of your business. These things were all done by this group of crazy people." Seeing the guilt in Yi Dingdang's eyes, Tang Zheng advised. If Yi Dingdang fell into a long period of self-blame, it would be difficult for her to wake up from this nightmare in the future, let alone pull herself together. Actually, this really had nothing to do with Yi Dingdang, but it should be blamed on the terrorists. Normal people should not pay for the actions of terrorists. When Yi Dingdang heard his words, her eyes revealed a look of gratitude. She bit her lips, and her originally rosy lips slowly turned pale. The 2 of them jumped into the abandoned courtyard. The walls blocked the view of the outside world, making it difficult for ordinary people to find them. Ding ling ling. Tang Zheng's phone rang. This was the phone they had prepared before leaving, and could only contact their teammates and superiors. Zhou Yan's voice rang out, "OL-3, where are you? There was a terrorist attack in the city, and now it's chaotic everywhere. OL-4, gather all of our team members and return to the youth hostel. Don't go out for the time being. Pay attention to your own safety and defend against all possible dangers. Ding Dang and I are outside taking care of some matters. We'll meet up later." Tang Zheng ordered. "Yes, OL-3. Be careful." Tang Zheng's performance in the base training was not as eye-catching as Yi Dingdang and Takashi's, but all the members of Class 1 had already established an unreserved trust in him that had never changed. As a result, when he gave this order, no one questioned it. Instead, they chose to carry it out unconditionally. Tang Zheng tied the terrorist to a chair, and then the savior became her. When she woke up, she saw Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. Her eyes revealed a look of fear, but she quickly calmed down and revealed a venomous gaze like a venomous snake. Chapter 272. The terrorist's venomous gaze did not scare Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang. Instead, it allowed them to clearly recognize the nature of this group of people. Look at the latest chapter. These people had already lost their most basic humanity and could not be measured by common sense. You have obstructed our sacred cause. You will definitely die miserably, the terrorist said while gnashing his teeth. Tang Zheng said disdainfully, "You have harmed the innocent, and you still want to talk to me about holiness? Looking at your face, I want to twist your head off and kick it like a ball. We are sacred warriors. Even if we die, what is there to be afraid of?" The terrorist said fearlessly. F***ck, bullshit holiness. I came here this time to uproot your terrorist organization. Tang Zheng grabbed him by the collar. "Speak, what other accomplices do you have? Where is your base camp here?" The terrorist sneered and said, "You want me to speak? Impossible." This woman was only in her 30s. Normally, at this age, she would be the mother of a child. Her words would exude the radiance of a mother, but she was different. She only had a vicious aura around her. Yi Dingdang said with red eyes, "Tang Zheng, you must think of a way to make her speak. Otherwise, there will definitely be more casualties. Don't waste your energy. I am a sacred warrior. How can I be scared by you?" The terrorist was stubborn. "Is that so? Then let me see how holy you are." Tang Zheng suddenly grabbed the other party's hair and slammed it against the wall, causing blood to flow out. The terrorist revealed a pained expression, but he laughed out loud. "I want to kill you heretics and chase you out of this holy land." Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang looked at each other. This person was a fanatical believer and had been completely brainwashed. It would not be easy to pry open her mouth. Yi Dingdang cast a questioning look at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng gritted his teeth and said, "Dingdang, go out. I'll ask her again. I must pry open her mouth." "Tang Zheng, don't do anything stupid," Yi Dingdang advised. This was an operation organized by the military. If people were to spread rumors, it would be extremely disadvantageous for Tang Zheng. "I understand. You go out and stand guard," Tang Zheng said without hesitation. Yi Dingdang hesitated for a moment and gave Tang Zheng a deep look. She then turned around and walked out, closing the old wooden door behind her. A look of disdain appeared on the terrorist's face as he said, "You heretics are usually high and mighty, pretending to be benevolent. Now you're finally going to reveal your true colors, right? You want to rape me? Ha, you can sully my body, but you can't sully my noble soul. You will fail in the end, and we will definitely drive you out of this land." Tang Zheng said contemptuously, "Who's interested in your body? Your soul is already so dirty, and this body is even dirtier. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me, I have ways to find out your secret. Don't worry, I won't kill you, I won't torture you, and your secret will still be exposed." After he finished speaking, Tang Zheng's big hand covered her head. Facing this kind of crazy guy, Tang Zheng did not have the slightest bit of mercy. Using the soul-searching great technique to turn her into an idiot was already letting her off lightly. The terrorist screamed, his eyes immediately becoming sluggish, and Tang Zheng finally obtained some useful information. It turned out that there was indeed a stronghold of a terrorist organization in this small city. However, it was not the base camp of the terrorists as the military understood. The base camp was somewhere else. This woman's position in this terrorist organization was not high. She only knew the location of this stronghold, but she did not know the base camp. According to what she had accidentally heard, the base camp was outside the country's borders, a mysterious place that ordinary people would not know about. Tang Zheng opened the wooden door and walked out. Yi Dingdang asked anxiously, "How is it?" "We've already gotten the information we want. Let's go to the youth hostel." Tang Zheng walked out with large strides. Yi Dingdang looked into the room and saw that the terrorist was sitting on the chair with a dull look in his eyes, as if he was a completely different person. "What happened to her?" Yi Dingdang asked in surprise. "She knows that she has sinned deeply, so she became a fool," Tang Zheng said indifferently. Yi Dingdang was in disbelief. He knew that he had sinned deeply and became a fool. How was that possible? However, when she realized that Tang Zheng had already walked to the entrance of the courtyard, she immediately chased after him and asked, "Are we just going to leave her here?" Tang Zheng said without turning his head, "If you are willing to kill her, I have no objections, but I am more inclined to let her fend for herself like this. Killing her directly would be letting her off too easily." As he spoke, a murderous aura surged forth, causing Yi Dingdang's heart to tremble. The expression in his eyes changed slightly as he stared straight at Tang Zheng's back. Inadvertently, she realized that there was already a difference between her and Tang Zheng. He was no longer the obedient student she first knew. Yi Dingdang did not turn around to kill the terrorists. Instead, he left the abandoned courtyard with Tang Zheng and closed the door. Before they even returned to the youth hostel, Su Hongwu's call came, asking about the terrorist attack just now. Yi Dingdang did not hide anything and told the other party about the information he had obtained from stopping the terrorist attack. Su Hongwu was extremely happy. It turned out that the person who stopped the terrorists and threw the bomb into the pool without caring about his life was Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng had really given him a great surprise. With such a soldier under his command, as Tang Zheng's commander, how could he not be happy? "Tang Zheng, you have completed your mission very well this time. Next, you guys wait and see. The military will send people to search for that stronghold," Su Hongwu said decisively. Tang Zheng said, "Company commander, our class requests to participate in the battle. These terrorists are not human, they are beasts. We absolutely cannot sit idly by." Su Hongwu rejected, "No, you have seen their style. They completely disregard the lives of others. What if you have casualties?" Tang Zheng retorted, "Company commander, when the regiment commander recruited us, he said that this training was life-threatening, and this time, we have witnessed the misdeeds of this group of people with our own eyes. If we don't do something, we will feel uncomfortable and ashamed of the military uniform we have been wearing during this period of time." These words were sonorous and forceful, causing people to feel deep veneration. Su Hongwu suddenly fell silent. After a long while, he said, "I will ask the regiment commander for instructions." "Wait a moment." Tang Zheng quietly waited for the phone call, not saying a word. Yi Dingdang looked at his chiseled face and her heart was slightly moved. She couldn't help but combine him with the image of the hero she had yearned for. A trace of shyness flashed through her eyes, but she quickly covered it up and said, "Tang Zheng, have you really decided to go to the terrorist stronghold?" Tang Zheng nodded without hesitation, "Of course, this time, we must try our best to catch all of these people in one fell swoop. In the past, I did not have a strong impression of these people, but this time, I have a direct impression of them. These people cannot be left behind." If they are left behind, they can only be a scourge to this country and its people. Tang Zheng's words were sonorous and forceful, leaving no room for doubt. Yi Dingdang nodded in agreement. All right, then this time we will go straight to the root of the problem. We will definitely catch all of these people in one fell swoop. Tang Zheng revealed a look of admiration. Although Yi Dingdang was competitive, this courage was definitely worthy of praise. Tang Zheng, the regiment commander has something to say to you. Su Hongwu's voice sounded from the phone. Tang Zheng, I am Kai Guibin. Company Commander Su reported your plan to me. Alright, I promise you, but you must remember, this time you must not be rash. First, you must wait outside, then wait for our main force to arrive and then cooperate with them to attack together. You must pay attention to your own safety. Kai Guibin said in a deep voice. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Alright, this time we will definitely not let these people escape. After hanging up the phone, the two of them returned to the youth hostel. The other 8 people immediately surrounded them and talked about what they had seen and heard today. They had split up to investigate, but they did not find the terrorists. Instead, they heard the explosions and gunshots. Only then did everyone understand that an even worse terrorist attack had happened this time. They hurriedly returned to the hostel and did not go out again. However, many people in the youth hostel had already checked out and left this troublesome place. There were not as many terrorist incidents in the country as there were abroad, but in recent years, there had been an increasing trend, which was really testing the nerves of the people. The atmosphere in the youth hostel was already quite solemn. This was the first terrorist attack here, and everyone was worried about whether there would be a second round. In fact, Tang Zheng was also worried about whether there would be a second round of attacks, so he had to race against time. Regardless of whether there would be a second round of attacks, he had to control this force as soon as possible. He told the others his thoughts, and then everyone was filled with righteous indignation. No one retreated. Instead, it was as if they had been injected with chicken blood, and they vowed that they would definitely capture these people. The 10 of them left the youth hostel and drove towards their destination. The atmosphere in the city was already very solemn. Although there were still many people on the streets, they all looked nervous and vigilant as they looked at each other, as if they were afraid that another terrorist would appear out of nowhere. From the discussions of the passers-by, they found out that the terrorist attack this time had already caused dozens of casualties. Fortunately, the other 2 explosions were not in densely populated areas, otherwise, the casualties would have been even greater. There were already many police cars and policemen on the streets. They were fully armed. Fortunately, Tang Zheng and the others did not have the characteristics of terrorists on their faces. Furthermore, they were dressed as standard backpackers, so they were able to pass through the layers of checkpoints and arrive at their destination. Their destination was actually the center of the city. These terrorists were really too bold. They did the opposite. Instead of hiding in the suburbs, they deliberately mixed in with the densely populated areas, creating an effect of darkness under the light for the people who were investigating. There were not many tall buildings in this small border town, and there were many small courtyards like the one in front of him. They were very secretive, and if Tang Zheng had not used the soul-searching technique to obtain the information, he would have doubted the authenticity of this information. The 10 of them got off the car from afar, then approached the small courtyard in 2s and 3s. There were many pedestrians nearby, so they were not very conspicuous. Tang Zheng looked around and found that the military's main force was not present. Kai Guibin had repeatedly warned them not to make a move before the main force arrived, because that would be too dangerous. Of course, Tang Zheng would not risk the lives of others, so he decided to wait for a while. Suddenly, the door to the courtyard opened, and a few fellows wearing large jackets walked out of the courtyard. They were all wrapped up tightly. Chapter 273. Looking at these guys who were dressed differently from ordinary people, Tang Zheng's pupils suddenly shrank. It was the end of September, and the weather was not too hot, but these people were wearing thick clothes, which meant that there was something under their clothes. Bomb. This thought immediately popped up in his mind. After seeing the power of the bomb earlier, Tang Zheng was particularly sensitive to this kind of thing. Seeing a few people quickly walk out of the courtyard, trying to blend into the crowd, and the main force had not arrived yet, he knew that he could not wait any longer. Thus, he made a prompt decision and ordered, "Stop them, but you must be careful. They might have bombs on them." The others were not frightened by the bomb. Instead, they were filled with righteous indignation and quickly walked towards these people with Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng locked onto one of the tall and big guys with a glance. This person had a fierce look on his face, and it was obvious that he was not a good person. The other 9 people surrounded the other 5 people. Not only were there men, but there were also women and 10-year-old children. If they did not know that they were terrorists in advance, it would be hard to imagine that these seemingly harmless guys would be so crazy. These 6 terrorists were very alert. When they saw a few people walking towards them, they immediately reacted and scattered to escape. Tang Zheng was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the big guy. He reached out and grabbed his arm. The big guy struggled to resist, but he found that it was as if he was clamped by a vice and could not move at all. The big guy had a ferocious look on his face and shouted, "Detonate." He wanted to press the detonator in his hand, but Tang Zheng controlled him so tightly that he could not even move his fingers. Tang Zheng tore off the other party's clothes. Sure enough, there were rows of detonators tied to the waist. It was a shocking sight. His shout was an order. The others stopped running and pressed the detonator in their hands without hesitation. Tang Zheng's teammates were scared out of their wits. Not only did this group of people not put other people's lives in their eyes, they did not even take their own lives seriously. They must not let the bomb explode. This was the thought in everyone's mind. They all rushed towards the person in front of them and held down the other person's arm tightly, preventing the other person from activating the detonator. Yi Dingdang also pounced on a little boy in front of her. However, this little boy was expressionless. Seeing that Yi Dingdang was about to pounce on him, he did not hesitate to press the detonator. Boom! Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and the tremendous impact directly turned the boy's body into a mass of blood. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew in all directions. Yi Dingdang was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Her body and face were covered in blood and flesh, but this was nothing because the fatal shockwave had not yet spread out. Yi Dingdang did not retreat. Instead, she extended her arms and used her body to block the shockwave. Bang! A powerful force directly sent Yi Dingdang flying, and she fell to the ground far away. Yi Dingdang's eyes rolled back, and she fainted, unconscious. The others turned pale with fright and screamed, "Yi Dingdang!" There was no response. Tang Zheng's face immediately turned pale white. He did not expect the terrorists to be so ferocious, and their movements to be so smooth. Even more so, he did not expect Yi Dingdang to disregard her own safety and use herself as a meat shield, blocking the explosion's shockwave. He chopped at the neck of the big guy in his hand, causing him to faint and lose his threat. Then, he handed him over to the others and quickly came to Yi Dingdang's side. He felt her pulse, and fortunately, she was not dead yet. However, her body was covered in blood and flesh, and she looked to be in a sorry state, even a little terrifying. Tang Zheng did not care so much, and immediately grabbed her hand to check on her injuries. Her injuries were very serious. Her internal organs were shaken, and even a few of her bones had been broken by the shockwave. His face was extremely gloomy. This damned group of terrorists. He suddenly turned around and stared at the terrorists who were being controlled, wishing that he could kill them with a single slash. At the moment of the explosion, the crowd in all directions had already fled with their heads in their hands. They had fled this place of trouble, so the originally bustling street had become sparsely populated. Through more and more bloody lessons, the people of the country had already understood that spectators would have to pay the price of blood, especially when it came to terrorist incidents. If they were not careful, they would lose their lives. Sinosaurus looked at the unconscious Yi Dingdang and quickly asked, Lao San, how is she? She won't die for the time being. Let's take care of these guys first, then take revenge for Dingdang. Tang Zheng gritted his teeth, stood up, and strode towards the courtyard. Be careful. The others turned pale with fright as they reminded him. Walking in like this was equivalent to being a live target. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to them. With a bang, he kicked open the courtyard door and rushed in. Bang! With the sound of a gunshot, a bullet landed where Tang Zheng was just standing, causing a cloud of dust to splash up. The others originally wanted to rush in as well, but the powerful firepower immediately suppressed them. The terrorists in the courtyard clearly understood that this stronghold had been completely exposed, so they decided not to hide anymore. One bullet after another shot out crazily, and the courtyard immediately became riddled with holes. The others did not dare to approach at all. They could only watch as Tang Zheng rushed into the courtyard like a ghost. Then, screams sounded out one after another. Everyone's hearts turned cold. They did not know what was going on inside, but at least one thing was certain, Tang Zheng was not dead, because the screams were coming from the enemy. At the end of the street, a few cars quickly drove over and stopped at the entrance of the courtyard. Dozens of armed soldiers got off the car and surrounded the courtyard. Sinosaurus and the others were also surrounded. Wu De strode out of the car, coldly glanced at the few of them, and said, What happened? Zhou Yan immediately went up to him and explained the situation in a concise manner. Wu frowned and said, Didn't we order you not to act rashly? Zhou Yan quickly explained, at that time, these terrorists were all carrying bombs, so they must have wanted to launch a new round of terrorist attacks. That's why we acted decisively. Otherwise, when they slipped away, it would have been too late. Wu pointed at Yi Dingdang who was lying on the ground and asked, What happened to her? Zhou Yan said, when Yi Dingdang was preparing to subdue a terrorist, the other party detonated the bomb. She used her body to block the shockwave and protect the others. When the accompanying soldiers heard this, they could not help but reveal looks of shock and admiration. This woman's spirit was even stronger than that of an ordinary man. However, it was obviously not the time to be emotional. The sounds of gunshots and screams continued to ring out in the courtyard as Wu De strode into the courtyard. Zhou Yan quickly reminded him, Instructor Wu, it's dangerous inside. Wu De snorted and pushed open the courtyard door with great force. He walked in fearlessly, and the others finally saw the situation in the courtyard clearly. The smell of blood assaulted their noses, and there were more than 10 corpses lying on the ground in a mess. Blood dyed the ground red, and Tang Zheng stood in the middle of the courtyard like a god of death, holding an old man in his hand. Other than them, there was no third person standing in the courtyard. Everyone was dumbstruck. Tang Zheng had taken care of so many terrorists by himself, and he had truly killed them. To ordinary people, killing people was an unimaginably terrifying thing, but it seemed that killing people here in Tang Zheng was as easy as killing chickens. Everyone looked at Tang Zheng with deep fear in their eyes. Even the members of 502 turned pale, and some of them even vomited while supporting themselves against the corner of the wall. Wu's pupils constricted. Killing people was nothing to her. She could no longer remember how many people had died by her hands. However, what she was concerned about was why Tang Zheng had such a strong fighting strength. According to the level of Tang Zheng's performance in training, he definitely did not have such a strong fighting strength, nor did he have such a decisive killing ability. However, all of this was right in front of her eyes, and the facts spoke louder than words. Tang Zheng was far more powerful than she had imagined. Wu instantly understood that Tang Zheng usually held back, and couldn't help but be extremely interested in this student of his. Bang! Tang Zheng threw down the old man in his hand. This person was a small leader in the terrorist organization, and also the leader of the people in the courtyard. The old man had already become a fool. He collapsed on the ground and stared blankly at the bloody scene. Wu frowned, walked in front of Tang Zheng, and asked, What happened to him? Nothing. He was scared silly. Tang Zhen glanced at Wu, his heart moved. This woman had actually been following by their side. The majority of the troops this time must have been brought by her, then he had to hide it in front of her. This old man had been turned into a fool by his soul-searching method. He did not know if she would be able to find out. Wu stared at the old man, and only after a long while did he ask, "Why did you kill so many people?" "They are not humans. They are a group of beasts that do not take other people's lives seriously." "Then I will let them have a taste of the same thing," Tang Zheng said coldly. Actually, he was provoked by these human bombs and Yidingdang's injuries, which was why he started a massacre. These people were a scourge, and he didn't even want them to live long enough to receive the punishment of the law. Instead, he used his own methods to completely end their evil lives. "If you kill them, then how are we going to find their accomplices?" Wu asked in dissatisfaction. Tang Zheng shivered. He had actually already obtained enough information from the old man's mind, but he did not plan to make it public, because he had actually discovered a huge secret from the old man's mind. This secret, he did not dare to tell anyone else, especially this marshal in front of him. Tang Zheng pointed at the few captives who did not succeed in self-destructing and said, "Aren't there survivors here? Slowly interrogate them yourself." After speaking, without waiting for the other party to react, he walked out in large strides and picked up Yidingdang. No one dared to stop him as there was still quite a bit of blood on his body, but it was without a doubt the blood of the enemy. However, the killing intent on his body was enough to make everyone tremble in fear. Tang Zheng carried Yidingdang into the car and shouted to his team members, "What are you still looking at? Go to the hospital." As if waking up from a dream, everyone climbed into the car and drove towards the hospital as fast as lightning. Wu Yuan looked in the direction where the convoy disappeared and muttered to himself, "His aura is a little familiar, I seem to have seen it somewhere before." Chapter 274. Yidingdang had already been sent to the emergency room, while Tang Zheng and the other team members were restlessly waiting outside. Everyone's mood was very gloomy, especially when they saw the blood on Tang Zheng's body. Everyone had a feeling of palpitations. Free novel portal. The shock that this class leader's actions had caused to their hearts was truly unimaginable. However, when they thought of the actions of those terrorists, they felt that it was especially satisfying. Shouldn't terrorists die? Of course they should. Tang Zheng had killed so many people, but not only did they not feel any disgust towards Tang Zheng, they instead felt that he was like an ancient chivalrous swordsman. Seeing injustice on the road, he righteously took action. The three members of room 502 looked at each other. Zhou Yang pushed Wang Shiji, "You are the boss, go and persuade third brother. We are very worried about him with his stern face and murderous aura." Sinosaurus also did not dare to provoke Tang Zheng. Although he was usually sloppy, when he saw Tang Zheng like this, his heart palpitated a little. As the boss of the dormitory, Wang Shiji could only take on this heavy responsibility. He took a few deep breaths to muster up his courage and sat beside Tang Zheng, advising, "Third brother, don't worry, Yidingdang will definitely be fine. Moreover, it's all thanks to you that we were able to destroy the stronghold of this terrorist organization and prevent more people from getting injured. You are a great contributor, and Yidingdang is also a great contributor." Tang Zheng raised his head, glanced at him, and laughed self-deprecatingly. "What qualifications do I have to say that I am a meritorious person? I am your class leader, and I did not protect you well. This is my responsibility." Wang Shiji shook his head and said, "This is an emergency, how can I blame you? You have already done very well." The others all nodded in agreement. "Yes, Tang Zheng, we all have to thank you. If not for you, we would have already died in the hands of those terrorists." Meritorious person. Do you need me to hold a celebratory feast for you? A cold voice rang out, only to see Marshall leading a few people over in large strides. Instructor Wu. Everyone stood up one after another, only Tang Zheng gave her a bland glance, not moving at all. Wu coldly snorted and said, "Tang Zheng, you are really amazing. You killed all those important people, but only left behind a bunch of small fries. If you want to dig out more information from them, it will be harder than ascending to the heavens. How do you think we should report on this mission? Originally, he thought that he had dug up the nest of the terrorist organization, but now it seemed that everything was just a dream. All the clues were cut off here. If Tang Zheng hadn't killed all the important people, this would have been a big hole in the terrorist organization. They could have followed the vine to the melon and really wiped out the other party. Wu was not a soldier, but this time, she was ordered by the sect master to carry out a mission in the army. This time, leading the newcomers and digging out this terrorist organization was her most important mission. However, all of this was completely disrupted by Tang Zheng. How could she not be angry? Especially the aura that Tang Zheng had displayed earlier, it had caused her heart to be in a mess. The more she pondered over this aura, the more she felt a sense of disgust for no reason. This was her strength. As a pre-celestial martial artist, although she had lost her memories of the ordinary balance, she had left behind some things, such as a mysterious feeling. Previously, Tang Zheng's performance was not that outstanding, so this feeling was not that strong. However, this time, Tang Zheng's murderous look finally made her feel a trace of a familiar aura. Tang Zheng was originally very careful, but he did not expect that Marshall would also come to this small border city, so he did not restrain his aura in time and was discovered by Marshall just like that. Marshall had already confirmed repeatedly that Tang Zheng was definitely not a martial artist, so his superb skills were extraordinary. If he was not a martial artist, then his skills would have been tempered through countless battles. But Tang Zheng was also a university student. How was this possible? In short, his body was filled with a mysterious sense of contradiction. Therefore, Marshall paid special attention to him and specially came to the hospital. Firstly, it was to visit Yi Dingdang's injuries. The big shots above were very concerned about Yi Dingdang's injuries. Secondly, it was to investigate Tang Zheng's background once again, and thirdly, it was to see if there was any way to remedy this mission. Tang Zheng did not even raise his head as he coldly said, "You can do whatever you want." A few people from Class 2 followed behind Wu. Takashi did not say anything, but the others could not help but shout, "Tang Zheng, how can you speak to Instructor Wu like that? I don't need you to teach me how to speak." Tang Zheng unhappily choked. The two classes were originally in a competitive relationship. This time, Class 1 was the first to discover the stronghold of the terrorist organization, causing the people of Class 2 to be in a very passive position. After Takashi led Class 2 to this small city, he stayed in the most high-end hotel. Then, he sent out his team members to search for the whereabouts of the terrorist organization, while he stayed in the hotel to enjoy himself. When the terrorist attack happened, their class did not collect much useful information. However, they heard that Class 1 had a bountiful harvest and even participated in the capture of the large army. This made the people of Class 2 very unconvinced, and also made Takashi very unhappy. He felt that he had lost face in front of his teammates, but there was nothing he could do. Later on, he heard that Tang Zheng actually disregarded orders and took the initiative to attack, causing Yi Dingdang to be severely injured. He felt that the chance to turn the tables had come, so he hurriedly found Marshall and went to the hospital with her to visit Yi Dingdang. Actually, he wanted to see Tang Zheng make a fool of himself. Seeing Tang Zheng's vexed expression, Takashi's face was expressionless, but his heart was already blooming with joy. "Tang Zheng, you also have a day like this. Back then, I wasn't your match, and you played with me, causing me to lose all my face in front of Yi Dingdang. Now, I want to return all the grievances I suffered to you. I really hope that Yi Dingdang dies this time, then you will be nailed to the pillar of shame." A vicious look flashed past Takashi's eyes. No one knew what he was thinking, because he was no longer the original Takashi. The original Takashi was tall and strong. He thought that he was smart, but in fact, he was extremely stupid. He only knew how to bully his classmates, bully the weak and fear the strong. After meeting Tang Zheng, this tough guy, he hid in a corner and no longer dared to raise his head to resist. Now, this Takashi had been completely reborn. His personality had undergone an earth-shattering change, because he was not only Takashi, but had also fused with another person's personality. Tang Zheng had also seen this person before, and had even killed him with his own hands. This person was Daoist Tianji's disciple, the cultivator who had kidnapped Mu Hongyan and Nana. In that small alley, Tang Zheng had used true fire to defeat him by surprise, and then killed him. At that time, Takashi had seen this scene with his own eyes from a faraway car, and was scared out of his wits. After Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan left, he quietly went to the corpse, but he did not expect that the remnant of the corpse's divine sense would parasitize his body, and then slowly fuse with Takashi's divine sense, evolving into a new Takashi. This Takashi was good at enduring patiently, and was vicious and merciless. He was like a poisonous snake eyeing Tang Zheng covetously from the side, and there were many times when he wanted to kill Tang Zheng. But after weighing the pros and cons, he realized that he was not Tang Zheng's opponent, and prematurely exposing himself would only cause him to die again. Then he would not be as lucky as the first time, and as long as he was exposed, Tang Zheng would definitely kill him, and he would truly kill him. Takashi was well aware of this point, so he chose to endure. At the same time, he went to the place where Daoist Tianji had hidden the secret manuals, and found Daoist Tianji's most treasured secret manuals. This was something that Daoist Tianji would not normally let him see. Even though he was Daoist Tianji's disciple, Daoist Tianji was very stingy when it came to imparting cultivation techniques, and would not pass everything to his disciple, so as to avoid starving the master to death. This was also the reason why when Tang Zheng killed Daoist Tianji, he went to the cave to search for his belongings but found nothing. No matter what, Tang Zheng would never have guessed that all of this was done by Takashi. It must be known that when Takashi found out that his master had been killed by Tang Zheng, he was so terrified that he could not live without fear. All day long, he hid in the corner of the classroom, not daring to look at Tang Zheng for fear of attracting his attention. After confirming that Tang Zheng would not pay attention to him, he began to cultivate diligently, and from the secret manuals, he found a secret method to hide his strength, so to outsiders, and even to Tang Zheng, he was just an ordinary person. He studied diligently while cultivating. Not only did his grades improve rapidly, but his cultivation also increased greatly. It seemed that after fusing with Takashi, his body had been transformed, making it suitable for cultivation. He was overjoyed, hoping that one day he would be able to avenge himself and kill Tang Zheng. During the college entrance exam, he relied on his identity as a cultivator to obtain third place. While Tang Zheng was unwilling to show his face, he enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. In the past, he had followed Daoist Tianji to hide from place to place, and he had had enough of that kind of life. Now that he found that there was another way to live, he gladly endured it. His ambitions were great, and he was no longer limited to the small matters of the past. He wanted to use his identity as a cultivator to create a big blue sky. He actively used the opportunity of exposure to come into contact with many important figures, creating his own network. And this time, he wanted to use this opportunity to establish a good relationship with the military, so that in the future they would be able to help him. Therefore, he worked especially hard during the military training, striving to obtain the military's appreciation. Only, he did not think that he and Tang Zheng would meet on a narrow path, and become competitors. Especially in this mission, Tang Zheng was one step ahead of him in discovering information about the terrorists, which made him furious. Hearing his own team members provoking Tang Zheng, Takashi did not stop them, but instead gave a meaningful glance to his team members. The others understood and mocked, "Yo, you don't have much ability, but your temper is quite big. You caused your team members to be injured, what qualifications do you have to be the class monitor? If I were you, I would buy a piece of tofu and kill myself." Everyone else also agreed. Sinosaurus and the others' faces suddenly changed, and they were furious. They rushed up and aggressively roared, "Little brat, What did you say? You want to be beaten? Let's fight. Who's afraid of who? Can't we talk about it? With Takashi's support, the members of Class 2 were full of vigor, eager to give it a try. Chapter 275. Shut up. Suddenly, Marshall growled. No one dared to speak anymore. They could only stare at each other angrily. Fairy, do you still want to fight in front of me? Marshall asked sternly. Takashi sneered in his heart, but advised in a good voice, everyone, stop talking about Tang Zheng. Although it was because of his rashness that Yi Dingdang was injured, I think he didn't want to do that in his heart. I just hope that he won't be so reckless in the future. Takashi's words seemed to be helping Tang Zheng out of the predicament, but in reality, he was hiding a malicious intent. He deliberately said that it was because of his rashness that Yi Dingdang was injured. Tang Zheng suddenly raised his head and stared straight at Takashi. This brat was much smarter than before, he actually knew how to put a spear in his words. Takashi smiled faintly at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng coldly snorted and ignored the other party. Wu said sternly, Tang Zheng, I have already decided to let you rest for a while. Don't worry about this matter anymore. Sinosaurus and the others were indignant, and said, Why? Why? It's because he didn't listen to orders and acted on his own accord that caused this situation. All the clues have been cut off. Marshall replied. Then we also need to rest for a while. You guys can slowly investigate. I won't serve you anymore. I'm a student, not a soldier. If you have the guts, just shoot me. Sinosaurus roared, then pointed to his own head, completely fearless. Takashi's mouth curled up into an imperceptible sneer. Go ahead and cause trouble, the more you guys cause trouble, the more unlucky Tang Zheng is, the happier I will be. The others were also excited, especially the members of 502. Zhou Yang and Wang Shiji also stood beside Tang Zheng without hesitation, and said, Right, we won't serve you anymore. How can you accuse us like this? Third brother risked his life for this result. Guosu and Wang Tong looked at each other and stood up without hesitation. We will stand with Tang Zheng. The other three also stood on Tang Zheng's side without hesitation. Looking at this group of people, Takashi was a little stunned. He never thought that Tang Zheng would have such high prestige. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Wu's face was ashen as he said, Do you want to rebel? Everyone was speechless, but there was a sense of unwillingness between their brows. Marshall stared at Tang Zheng and said, If your people don't want to work anymore, then scram back. I don't need such people can only drag me down. Sinosaurus and the others hesitated for a moment before saying resolutely, Fine, we'll leave. We won't do it. Tang Zheng looked at everyone, an indescribable feeling welled up in his heart, and said, Don't mess around. Everyone trembled. Sinosaurus said indignantly, the three, if they don't recognize our efforts, then what are we still doing here? Tang Zheng understood that these people were not like him. If they had the recognition of the army, it would definitely be beneficial for them in the future. He could not be so selfish as to ignore the interests of others for himself. Don't say any more, you guys continue with your mission. Instructor Wu, don't you want me to quit? I'll do as you wish, I'll quit. Tang Zheng said. OL3, squad leader. The others shouted, wanting to stop him. Tang Zheng waved his hand, indicating that they should not try to persuade him, and said, I have already made up my mind. Takashi was secretly delighted in his heart. Tang Zheng, Tang Zheng, you think you're smart, without you, the mission this time would be mine, haha. Alright, since that's the case, I'll report it to the higher-ups. You should return to the capital immediately. Marshall said without any trace of politeness. Tang Zheng was not angry, but instead heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he did not do anything under Marshall's nose, he would be even safer. As for whether he had contributed or not, he did not care. The reason he came to the army to gain experience was to increase his own strength. Now that there was an anomaly like Marshall, his plan was obviously not going to work. Moreover, he had obtained even more important information from the terrorist old man's mind. He still had more things to do. I want to stay behind to take care of Yi Dingdang. I'm not in a hurry to return to the capital. Tang Zheng said. Up to you. Then, he stared at the 8 people in Class 1 and said, next, you will all be merged into Class 2 and led by Takashi. If I hear anyone disobeying orders, don't blame me for being impolite. Sinosaurus and the others were indignant, but when they saw the look in Tang Zheng's eyes, they suppressed their anger and did not flare up. What are you arguing about? This is a hospital. Who is the patient's family? Suddenly, the door to the emergency room opened. The doctor walked out and scolded unhappily. Tang Zheng hurriedly walked over and said, I'm her friend. May I ask how she is? The patient is out of danger, but she still needs to be hospitalized for observation and treatment. The doctor said. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. As long as there was no danger to their lives, it was a blessing in disguise. To be able to survive such a close encounter with an explosion was already considered lucky. Actually, this was not a fluke. After all, Yi Dingdang was a martial artist of the 9th stage of the body refining stage. The moment before the explosion, she had already mobilized all the inner strength in her body to protect the vital parts of her body. Moreover, the explosion this time did not have steel balls or other objects. Instead, it was a pure explosion. The power of the explosion was incomparable to the one outside the shopping mall. Yi Dingdang was pushed out. Her face was pale and she had already woken up. She turned her head to look at the crowd outside the door and weakly asked, how's the operation? Don't worry, it's already over. Tang Zheng comforted her. Yi Dingdang heaved a sigh of relief but revealed a look of guilt. I'm sorry. This time I didn't do a good job and caused everyone to worry. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, this is not your fault. You are a hero. If you did not risk your life to block the shockwave, others would have been injured. Therefore, you saved others. Yi Dingdang was a little embarrassed. Since she was young, she had a hero complex. Therefore, her ideal partner was a hero. Now that she was actually called a hero by Tang Zheng, she could not help but have mixed feelings. Really? She found it hard to believe. Of course it's true. The others nodded their heads solemnly. Dingdang, you saved everyone. If you are not a hero, who else would dare to call themselves a hero? Yi Dingdang's face flushed red. Alright, the rest of you follow me. Tang Zheng, you stay in the hospital to take care of Yi Dingdang. Wu said coldly. The others reluctantly looked at Tang Zheng, especially the members of 502 whose eyes were red. They said, OL3, Tang Zheng waved his hand and said, continue with the mission. The few of them had no choice but to nod. Yi Dingdang saw that something was wrong and hurriedly asked, what's going on? Zhou Yan couldn't wait to say, they won't let OL3 carry out the mission. What? Yi Dingdang was shocked. She struggled to sit up but frowned in pain. Seeing this, the doctor hurriedly said, the patient cannot move around. Otherwise, it will affect the wound. The one in pain is you. Tang Zheng immediately pressed down on Yi Dingdang and said, don't be agitated. Recuperate well. I'll accompany you in the hospital. Yi Dingdang said indignantly, why didn't I let you carry out the mission? This time, it was clearly you who discovered the terrorists, and it was also you who found the clues. Furthermore, if it wasn't for your prompt decision, those terrorists would have slipped away and launched the first round of attacks. At that time, the casualties would have been even greater. Yi Dingdang's question was powerful and resounding. It was also the thoughts of the rest of the class as they all looked at Instructor Wu. Wu's expression did not change in the slightest as he coldly said, he has done a lot of things, but he has also ruined all of our plans. He has killed all of the leaders of the terrorists, leaving behind a few small fries, causing our plan to fail completely. He will have to pay the price for this. Kill all the leaders? Yi Dingdang was shocked. He looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. Tang Zheng said calmly, those people deserve to die. They can only be a scourge if they stay in this world. Zhou Yan explained. At that time, San saw that Yi Dingdang was injured by the explosion and was stimulated. That was why he started a massacre. No matter who it is, no matter what the reason is, he has to pay the price for ruining our plan. There is no room for maneuver. Wu said straightforwardly. When Yi Dingdang heard these words, there was only one voice that echoed in his heart. Tang Zheng actually did not hesitate to kill for him. Girls all had hero complexes, and Yi Dingdang was even more so. Wasn't it just a girl's fantasy to kill in all directions in anger for a beauty? Tang Zheng had done it for her. Yi Dingdang's heart was in chaos. She did not know what to say. Only when everyone else had left did she regain her senses, but when she realized that only Tang Zheng was by her side, she felt embarrassed for the first time, and finally mustered up the courage to look at him. Then, she couldn't help but recall the scene in the shopping mall. His heroic image was deeply imprinted in her heart. Didn't her family always want her to pursue Tang Zheng? In the past, she thought that this was an absurd idea, but now she realized that Tang Zheng was actually in line with the image of the lover of her dreams. What should I do? Do I really have to chase after him? Her heart was in chaos, and her face turned even redder. Seeing that Tang Zheng was looking at her, she quickly averted her gaze. Tang Zheng looked at her in surprise and asked, "Your face is so red, are you feeling unwell somewhere?" "No." Yi Dingdang said in a mosquito-like voice. "Then why are you blushing?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. Yi Dingdang was usually carefree, so he would not have such a girly attitude. Yi Dingdang really wanted to roll her eyes at him. Was there anyone who would ask someone so directly? Couldn't he see that she was embarrassed? Tang Zheng really did not know that she was embarrassed. Seeing that her complexion was getting better, he couldn't help but touch her forehead and said, "You don't have a fever. Do you want me to find a doctor to take a look?" "You're the one with a fever." Yi Dingdang said in a bad mood, "This time you were eliminated." "I'm sorry, I didn't think that things would turn out like this." Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, "What does that have to do with you? It's me who doesn't want to stay here anymore. I still like to live a free and unrestrained life." Tang Zheng was speaking the truth. In these 10 days of living in the military camp, he could also follow orders, but in his heart, there was always a voice calling out to him. He always yearned for a free and unrestrained life. Chapter 276. Yi Dingdang did not believe that he liked to be free and unrestrained. She thought that he was deliberately saying these words to comfort her. She was even more excited and grateful in her heart, and her face was as red as an apple. "Tang Zheng, thank you." She held it in for a long time before saying softly. Tang Zheng was actually a little unable to adapt to her gentleness, and asked uncertainly, "Are you really all right?" "Of course I'm fine." "All right, if you're fine, then I'll be leaving first," Tang Zheng said as he heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Dingdang said in surprise, "Didn't you say you were going to stay with me?" Tang Zheng said, "Aren't you fine now?" "I have something to do," Yi Dingdang said snappily. It was too unkind of him to want to leave her behind so quickly. "What's the matter?" My body hurts, I'm not feeling well," Yi Dingdang said after holding it in for a long time. "Then I'll go call the doctor." "You're not allowed to go." Yi Dingdang hurriedly stopped him. Tang Zheng was baffled. "Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? How can I not call the doctor?" If Yi Dingdang wasn't unable to move, she would definitely want to kick him away. "I'm a patient, can't you stay with me?" "But I'm pressed for time." "Pressed? What else do you want to do?" Yi Dingdang looked at him suspiciously. Tang Zheng cursed inwardly, he had actually let it slip. The information in the old man's mind was extremely urgent, so he did not dare to delay any longer. If he went too late and the other terrorists received the news and retreated, then even if he rushed to that place, it would already be too late. Nothing. Tang Zheng said perfunctorily. Yi Dingdang looked at him suspiciously, snorted, and said, "So mysterious, I don't know what you're up to. What the hell can I do?" "Well, no matter what you do, I can't control you in my current state anyway. But you have to stay with me in the hospital today. What if I have something urgent and I don't have a familiar person with me?" Yi Dingdang requested. Tang Zheng was right. After all, Yi Dingdang was a girl. Moreover, she needed someone to take care of her. Seeing that he did not say a word, Yi Dingdang did not know what he was thinking. For the first time, she also fell silent. Tang Zheng was thinking about his next plan, so he did not say anything. Suddenly, the room became strangely quiet. Yi Dingdang glanced at Tang Zheng from time to time. She found that he was actually quite handsome and had a special flavor. No wonder Fang Shishir was with him. After an unknown period of time, Yi Dingdang's bladder felt a little bloated. Her face turned even redder as she thought to herself, "Why do I want to pee? And at a time like this, it's just me and him." This was a predicament that she had never thought of. She could not help but feel anxious. Hold it in. I have to hold it in. She clenched her teeth. After a while, her cheeks turned from red to green. She could not hold it in anymore. Tang Zheng noticed that something was wrong with her and quickly asked, "Dingdang, what's wrong?" Yi Dingdang was extremely shy. She did not want to say anything, but the bloating in her bladder was making her collapse. "Tang Zheng, I want to go to the bathroom." Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment. After confirming that he did not hear wrongly, he immediately remembered that in the Shirwan Mountains, he could not move and Mu Hongyan helped him solve his physiological problems. Could it be that this time, he also wanted to help Yi Dingdang solve her physiological problems? He could not help but feel a rush of excitement. This idea was too wretched, but there was no doubt that it was very tempting. Seeing Tang Zheng's eyebrows reveal a trace of a malicious expression, Yi Dingdang wished she could find a hole to crawl into. However, her physiological problems could not be left unsolved. Otherwise, it would be even more embarrassing if she wet the bed later. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and broke the silence. "I'll take you there." Then he went out to find a wheelchair and carried her into it. Yi Dingdang's body inevitably had intimate contact with his. Her body immediately straightened, and her emotions were extremely complicated. Tang Zheng also felt the changes in her body. He could not help but find it funny. It was really interesting that the carefree Yi Dingdang also had this side. He carried her into the wheelchair and pushed her along the corridor to the bathroom. Yi Dingdang felt that countless people were looking at her along the way, which made her feel even more embarrassed. In fact, all of this was her illusion. It was normal to push patients in the hospital. When they finally came to the bathroom, Tang Zheng was in a dilemma. Although this matter was very tempting, it would be strange if he was not beaten to death as a pervert if he rushed into the bathroom like this. However, it was impossible to take her to the men's bathroom, right? Yi Dingdang was also in a dilemma. She did not know what to do. Instead, her body went soft and did not have any strength. She did not even have the strength to speak. Tang Zheng coughed and knocked on the door of the women's bathroom. He tried to make his voice sound masculine. "Is there anyone inside? I want to bring the patient in. If there is anyone, please tell me. Otherwise, I will come in." After a long time, there was no response. Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang both breathed a sigh of relief. If there was someone, it would be even more awkward. Tang Zheng carried Yi Dingdang in his arms and walked into the bathroom. Sure enough, there was no one inside. He walked into a cubicle and gently put Yi Dingdang down. The anesthetic effect of her surgery had worn off, but her legs still did not have the strength to stand. She only had a little strength in her hands, so she could not solve the problem by herself. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Tang Zheng hesitated for a long time and said, "Do you want me to help you?" Yi Dingdang did not know where she got the strength to nod. Then, Tang Zheng helped her take off her pants little by little. She was wearing a patient's outfit, and her pants were very loose. With a light pull down, it fell to her knees, and two shining white thighs immediately jumped into Tang Zheng's eyes. More importantly, an even more alluring scene swayed in front of his eyes. Yi Dingdang's brain had exploded. She was in a mess, and her thoughts had drifted to God knows where. No matter how carefree she was usually, the natural shyness of a woman still prevailed in this situation. Tang Zheng did not dare to look at her anymore. He quickly carried her and squatted down like he was helping a baby to pee. He aimed at the urinal. Yi Dingdang was so nervous that she did not pee. Tang Zheng was embarrassed. He could not carry her like this. If someone broke in later, this position would be too intimate. Even if he was thick-skinned, he would still feel embarrassed. Shoo, shoo. He immediately came up with a plan and whistled. Sure enough, this trick worked. The sound of splashing water immediately rang out. Yi Dingdang's body was like water. She collapsed in Tang Zheng's arms and panted. She was even more tired than after a big battle. She was physically and mentally exhausted. When she was finally done, Tang Zheng pulled up her pants again. He suppressed the desire to see what was going on and pretended to be serious. But the more he acted like this, the more Yi Dingdang felt that he must have seen something. She could not remember how she was carried back to the wheelchair and then returned to the ward. She did not even notice that Tang Zheng had left the ward. When she found that she was alone in the ward, she anxiously looked around. There was no sign of Tang Zheng. Did he run away? He actually took advantage of her and ran away. That was too ungrateful. She was a little indignant, and her heart was even more confused. She did not know how to face him in the future. Just as she was thinking about this, Tang Zheng came back. She was about to shout when she found that there was a person behind him. She was shocked. What was this middle-aged woman doing here? Tang Zheng immediately revealed the answer. Dingdang, I have something to do first. I specially invited this caregiver to take care of you. Caregiver? Yi Dingdang widened her eyes in shock. Yes, I still have something to do. I have to leave for a while. Tang Zheng really had something to do. Although taking care of Yi Dingdang would definitely relive the stimulation just now, there was too much stimulation. He was very afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Moreover, in the long run, the relationship between the two of them would be very awkward, so to be on the safe side, he decided to hire a caregiver to take care of her. If Tian Chanzi was here, he would definitely scold him. Such a good opportunity was wasted. Wasn't this a great opportunity to take down Yi Dingdang? In fact, although Tang Zheng already had a girlfriend, his method of pursuing girls was still at a very early stage. After all, he and Fang Shishir were originally in love with each other, and both of them were in love with each other, so he did not spend much effort to pursue her. Moreover, his focus right now was not on Yi Dingdang, but on the terrorist organization. This was because the information he received was that there was actually the shadow of the demon clan behind the terrorist organization. This was a huge secret. If it wasn't for that old man's special status in the terrorist organization, he definitely wouldn't have known about this. This was the reason why he hid this news from the military. The demon clan was involved with cultivators, so if he told the military, it would be equivalent to telling the martial sect. Although the demon clan's methods were cruel, they were still cultivators, so he wanted to follow the clues and see if he could find out more about the cultivators. As a result, he had no choice but to leave the military and investigate alone. This matter was of great importance, so he definitely would not let a second person know about it. He could not even tell Yi Dingdang. If he delayed for too long and let the people of the demon clan escape, then he would not have such a good opportunity in the future. The master and disciple he had met in the past were all from the demon clan. However, their levels were too low, so Tang Zheng did not know much useful information from them. And this time, the demon clan behind the terrorist organization was actually able to organize so many operations, daring to go against the country, so they would not be the stragglers of the demon clan. That was why Tang Zheng placed so much importance on them. In fact, the demon clan was not much different from other cultivators. It was only because they cultivated special cultivation techniques that were extremely sinister and ruthless that they could forcefully raise their cultivation. It was intolerable for the heavens, so they were rejected by others and were labeled as demon clan. Tang Zheng originally did not have much malice towards the demon clan, but after seeing the way the terrorist organization did things, he did not have the slightest good impression of the demon clan. No wonder even in the cultivation world, the demon clan was regarded as a different race. The demon clan did not have the slightest bit of mercy in their hearts, they were too ruthless. If he had the chance this time, he would definitely eradicate these demons. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.